You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the Black and Gold. Steelers Nation Radio.
Good afternoon, Steeler Nation, and welcome to a special edition of The Drive here in fabulous Phoenix, Arizona at the Biltmore for the 2026 NFL League meetings. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson on location here, cross-country on a special Sunday show. What's going on, Matt? I'm excited for these next couple days.
Yeah, you should be. It's a pretty cool event. It's much different than things like the Combine that we've done recently. We haven't been to Arizona there's 2 years in between. I don't know exactly why this happened, but usually the way it was explained to me way back when by Dale and company was they do one on the West Coast, Arizona, then they do one on the East Coast, Florida.
That's what I always thought,
and then
too,
they go back and forth, and for whatever reason, there have been the last two were in Miami, so we haven't been here for a while. But I think this was the first one I came to, so I'll be going to – this is my fourth or fifth in a row. And it's just a different vibe. I mean, again, it's not coaches and scouts and – a lot of draftniks or things like that. It's not as much hustle bustle. It's in a very nice location.
Oh my goodness,
obviously.
It is gorgeous
here,
man.
I mean, golf courses everywhere, and obviously a lot of money and things like that. And this is where
a lot of sunshine,
a lot of sunshine
good weather out here
yeah,
too.
That in the 90s already, right? But this is where a lot of big decisions are made. A lot of it behind the walls that we're not privy to the conversations, but we're hanging with, rubbing elbows with these folks. It's cool.
Yes, we are. It is. It's my first time here, which I'm excited for. As you mentioned, it's just kind of a different vibe from what we typically do. We will have some guests and everything. Today's kind of setup day, though. It's just us and the New York Jets in here right now.
If you could turn these cameras around, there's just a lot of people setting up everywhere. Like right in front of us is a ballroom that there's going to be all 16 NFC coaches will sit there and have a breakfast tomorrow. The day after, all 16 AFC coaches are in there. Right behind us is I think they set this up for like brunches and things like that behind us. But everybody's just kind of getting ready for the big stuff to happen.
Yes.
But I have seen a head coach already, and
Yes, we did. Mike Vrabel walked right past us.
Oh, really? I saw Dan Quinn.
Did you see Dan
ago,
Quinn? Yeah, Vrabel was walking past us just a few minutes ago. Today.
So they're staying in the building we're at.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, today kind of the setup day, the kind of first moving and shaking here around the Biltmore, and then tomorrow is when it really gets going. Tomorrow, as you mentioned, the NFC head coaches will speak. Mike McCarthy will speak to the Pittsburgh media tomorrow, and then do his national media stuff on Tuesday. Also, Omar Khan and Mr. Rooney speaking on Tuesday. So we will have
all the top people in every organization are pretty much available in some way, shape, or form, including the commissioner of the league.
And absolutely, Roger Goodell will speak here too, and Matt will have a fun dinner here tomorrow night. The owners' dinner, which I'm looking forward to. Brought my my finest duds for the big fancy dinner tomorrow night. So today is kind of a set the scene day, a little bit, if you will. And with
I would imagine some owners and GMs and coaches are still flying in today. We got in last night.
Yes, it's probably a mix of both. I would think.
And
we had an outstanding Mexican meal last night as well too. By the way,
a little bit of a long flight, and we were all starving. Hit the Mexican and margaritas pretty hard. That was great.
Had one of the best burritos I've had in a long time here in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. So Matt, we'll just kind of start with maybe a little 411, little primer here.
Okay.
Of all the moving and shaking, what to expect over the next couple days, the different topics that will be on the agenda, right? So this is all about voting on rules, bylaws, resolution proposals, all
There's
those
also
different things.
a lot of discussions behind the scenes too, by the way, folks. That probably goes without saying, but it's not like in the Combine, you'll hear, I'm sure there's things like, can we sign this guy, or let's talk trades, or blah, blah, blah. I wonder what they're like here, but you will walk around here, and I don't think I'm revealing too much, but if you spend enough time on this property, you'll see two owners in the corner just kind of wonder what they're chatting about, or two GMs in the corner, and maybe because they were on a staff together 20 years ago and they're good buddies.
And they're talking about their wives and their kids and how's everyone doing.
There's tons of that, but it also might be like, thinking about trading Myles Garrett?
What are you hearing about A.J. Brown?
Right. I mean, there's all the people that make decisions are here.
Yes, and so it is a real kind of all the power players of the National Football League.
And we're just kind of a fly on the wall,
Exactly right. And so here's some of the different proposals, some of the different things that we could expect to be on the agenda this week. We discussed some of this last week, but I think it's just a good refresher here on this Sunday as we get started.
Bonus drive, by the way.
Bonus 3-hour edition of the drive here today, Monday, and Tuesday, 3 days.
And then we're traveling Wednesday.
And then we travel on Wednesday. Yep. The kicking team able to declare an onside kick at any time during the game. Of course, now, for those who are unfamiliar, you can only do that in the fourth quarter.
Right.
We all know, I think most people know by now that you have to declare the onside kick, but that's only allowed in the fourth quarter. I have to think, Matt, though, that they'll change this and you can declare an onside kick at any time during the game.
I remember when the original rule was passed about it, and then there was that caveat about only in the fourth quarter, and I think I was on with Dale, and we're like, why only in the fourth quarter? What if I want to do it to start the game?
Why not?
It might not be smart. I mean, the recovery rate isn't very good now because you have to tell people it's coming. There's no surprise onside to start the half in the Super Bowl, so to speak.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's the only thing I don't like about the new kickoff rule in general is there's just no way around it because you have to have a different formation if people haven't thought this through. So you have to at least declare that we're going to line up differently and thus kick an onside kick, and then everyone knows it's coming. But why do you have to wait to the fourth quarter? Like, I'll be shocked if that gets any resistance among. I mean, it seemed like just kind of they should have got it right the first time. Honestly, why even put that in there?
Agreed.
know,
Completely agree. So that's number one in terms of the playing rules proposals that will be on the agenda. Number two is eliminating kicking teams' incentive to intentionally kick the ball out of bounds when kicking off from the 50-yard line. So basically. Yeah. If there is
this was just a pure loophole.
This is a pure loophole.
Yeah.
We saw Danny Smith last year. If there's a penalty on the receiving team, and so you get to kick off from the 50-yard line, it just behooves you to boot that thing out of bounds because you're going to be surrendering less yardage.
Yeah.
Basically.
And no one's going to take it to the house on you, or there's no risk. You know exactly
right.
what you're getting, and I think that was just an overlooked loophole because we talked about this the other day. I vividly remember being here or at a owners meeting when all they could talk about is the dynamic kickoff, It
was a huge story 2 years ago.
Huge story. And it was up until all through the preseason and training camp. And are they going to have to spend half of their practice working on the dynamic kickoff? Of course, we're exaggerating. They didn't. But, I mean, how these teams going to handle it? Are they going to start, Danny had to watch all this different preseason tape of all the different teams, how they handled it. And in some ways, it ended up being kind of much ado about nothing in year one. It didn't change things drastically.
The scuttlebutt was much greater than the impact.
Yeah. And I got a kick out of it, too, because I remember being here, and they basically, I mean, I'm, again, exaggerating. They come out of these doors, and they're like, the dynamic kickoff passed. And then, 4 seconds later on my phone, it's like, the Steelers signed Cordero Patterson. He's like the best kickoff returner ever. I'm like, I bet that's not a coincidence, And it was fine, but year one, it was kind of much ado about nothing. I think you were right.
Last year, we saw more.
Last year, it really made a ton of impact, and the Steelers or the league do want more scoring, but we've talked about this a ton. Average starting field position went up drastically just last year, and by the way, the kickers are getting so much better. You're in field goal range after a first down or two.
You pick up 2 first downs, and if you've got the right kicker, you're absolutely already in field goal range.
Yeah, that's a lot different than it was 4 or 5 years ago.
It sure is. And then last one, so a lot of these proposals.
But they didn't catch this loophole. I kind of went off a tangent.
Correct.
There. Yeah, because it's so new. I mean,
Which
there's
makes
not
sense.
that many kickoffs that would even apply to this.
And you give these special teams coordinators the opportunity to figure something like that out, and they're going to.
It only takes one, and then the whole league knows.
Exactly right. And then it's on tape, then everyone knows and goes, oh, yeah, let's do that too.
Kick it out of bounds, right. And the Steelers did it. Boswell did it.
Absolutely,
right.
Yeah. And we were all like, that's a great call. It's a great decision.
I remember
the offense
even
5 yards extra back.
A couple people were like, oh, come on, Boz, what are you doing? No, that was on purpose,
that was
guys.
smart.
Yeah.
Third one here, and this is the last one that affects directly the kickoffs. We all know that there are alignment requirements for the receiving team in terms of the setup zone. They want to modify some of the parameters around those alignments. I think that give teams more flexibility.
Yeah, and this is something I don't know the exact parameters of, but I think you're only allowed to align in one formation.
I believe you are correct.
Which, again, I mean, you can't tell the offense you have to align in 12 personnel
with
these
weird
guys.
When you think about it, where else do we do that?
Yeah. Right. I mean, special teams coaches need to be creative too. And
you have rules. Only this many guys have to be on the line of scrimmage. All those different things.
Yeah.
But you still have wiggle room and freedom within those confines.
So, example, if I bring it back to the Steelers, I mean, they always had basically Warren and Gainwell as their 2 deep guys. But I always thought that was goofy, and I even commented at the time, I'm like, if you do have Cordero Patterson in his prime, I want him back there alone with somebody
with an
else
extra blocker.
Right, exactly, because not to mention every kicker's not going to kick it to Patterson. They're going to kick it to the other guy. And I'm sure you could be like, come get it anyway, but but still I don't want to put two guys back there because I paid this dude a ton to take every kickoff.
Exactly right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly right. Let's make it a strength.
Yeah. And,
So,
and I don't know what the other parameters are, the up guys and the middle guys, and I just don't know enough about the special teams of it all. But why not be as creative as possible?
it makes a ton of sense.
I mean, punt formations, you can be however you want. You can have a bunch of wide guys. You can have tight.
Exactly
can have,
right. Yeah, you could go for a punt block and
Right,
have as many
right,
people
right.
back covering. Yeah,
they're not saying you have to align this way.
So those are the three related to kickoff specifically, all proposed by the competition
They probably
committee.
all passed. Don't you think off the top of your head?
I would think off the top of my head, I guess so.
Maybe I'm missing a negative but it's year 3 of this or year 4 of this, and we found loopholes. Let's fix them.
I think that makes a ton of sense. Next one, and this one will be this is maybe the most intriguing one to me, also proposed by the competition committee, allowing league personnel to consult with the on-field officials when considering disqualifications for flagrant football acts and non-football acts that are not called on the field. So things like punches, spitting, stomping on, unsportsmanlike conduct that the referees miss. Think Jalen Ramsey versus Jamar Chase last year, that spitting incident.
Bring it back home.
League personnel, from the booth or from the league offices or whatever the case may be, would have the ability to buzz down to the officials and say, hey, that guy just spit on that guy, or that guy just stomped on that guy's leg in the pile. Non-football, flagrant football acts.
So I've been giving this a little more thought, and I'm sure every owner and everyone in charge of this great league does not want that look. Here's a replay 500 times in a row of someone spitting in the other one's face.
Saw it with Jalen Carter and Dak Prescott in the
right,
opener.
Right. It's a terrible look, and I'm sure they want all that stuff out. Good. I mean, on the surface, all these rules are going to sound good today, but if you start breaking them down, I immediately start thinking, like, well, how far are we going to take this? If it's like the whistle blows and I'm walking away and I give you one of these. Oh, I don't know. Let's look at it.
Sure.
Like how far are we going to take
this?
And
for those listening on radio, Matt just gave me a light push on the shoulder.
Right, he's under there giving them the business. I'm like, some of this stuff's just boys being boys in football.
Just competition.
Yeah. Let's not take it too far. I mean, gross flagrant things, punch below the belt or, but not
Stepping
even like
on someone's ankle.
Not even like a shot to the face afterward. I mean, like these things have happened since the dawn of time.
Yes.
Let's not relegate everything out of it. That's my only worry there.
That's a very good point by you because
just kind of thought through that
you'd be leaving a lot of interpretation to the official.
Right, like, well, why didn't we look at that?
Because you might think that that's flagrant, I might not.
Yeah.
I might just think that's part of the game.
And it might be worth a flag if it had been caught the first time around, but do we have to watch all of them? Again, I mean, I'm sure it's just the big ones.
That's
Monday Night Football, someone's spitting each other face or doing something. You can't have that. I get it.
No, that's a great point by you, though, because that does leave a lot of interpretation down to the official and what they would consider flagrant and non-football acts. And then finally, lastly,
I mean, I wonder also like a obscene gesture or a throat slash or any of those type of things, or
maybe
grabbing yourself
or something like that.
Does that count?
A certain finger on the hand might be in the
we
middle.
Could all
might be in the middle
it.
of your fist.
Right.
That's all the stuff they'll be discussing, I'm sure. And what exactly can the parameters of this be? How far can we take it? And is it realistically enforceable? Or are we putting these referees in a tough spot?
Because I don't even know those things need to be under review.
True.
Under the review for maybe giving the guy the finger,
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Like a spit or like a crotch punch or a stamp on somebody, that's different. But there is a fine line between just that guy's being a jerk versus something that needs punished.
Yeah. I mean, I remember like Namakon Sue back in the day would get up after a sack or hitting the quarterback and like stomp on his hand. Like, we don't need that.
We don't need that.
And frankly, Joe Green did a lot of these things too. And, the Steelers aren't.
Jack Lambert, baby.
Right. Yeah.
Last one proposed by the competition committee of the 5 potential rules proposals is for 1 year only, allow the NFL officiating department to correct clear and obvious misses made by on-field officials that impact the game. However, with the caveat of this is only in the event that there is a work stoppage involving the game officials represented by the NFL Referees Association. For those who are like, what the heck is Wes talking about?
Yeah, there's a lot of words there.
The league and the NFL Referees Association are currently at a little bit of a stalemate. So they do not have a
Contractually,
contract. Contractually,
right.
the NFL officials do not have their – it's the same thing as we see when there's a CBA between the league and the players. There's also that same thing between the league and the Referees Association.
There could be a strike or a work short. Or
like we had in 2012.
Yeah.
Everybody remembers the replacement refs. There is potential for that again this year. And if that was the case – we wouldn't have the Fail Mary type situation again like we had in Seattle in 2012 between the Seahawks and the Packers, where one referee signaling touchdown, the other signaling incomplete, and they have to argue about it for 10 minutes. This would give them –
which, frankly, could have happened with the real refs, but it's just
have.
A terrible look. It's like, oh, the replacement refs. Right.
This gives me worry, Matt. This gives me pause. One, that they are doing this preemptively because they're – thinking that there's going to be a referee strike, and two, that they realize that it's probably not going to be the highest level of officiating. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking into it too far, but this one is kind of making my spidey senses tingle. Yeah.
Part of me also thought maybe it's a really good negotiating ploy for the refs. Like, we're preparing for life without you guys.
Ooh,
so maybe we're going to offer you 10% less than you're asking, or who knows. I mentioned this the other day. I also think refs are a little bit like drivers. Like, you get to an age where you might have to take your driver's test again.
It's a great example.
Like, I'm not saying having, quote, scab or replacement refs would be good for the league, but you might find 3 or 4 that are better than the dudes that are getting paid full time for it.
It's not a bad point.
It might be much worse too. It's going to be scrutinized more under which is already scrutinized a lot.
Yes, exactly right. So those are the rules proposals on the agenda here over the next couple days. There's also,
I will say, compared to other years, this is a little light. Like the kickoff rule or tush push, or like people have been talking about for months. Like, they can't wait till this, then they battle it out and it's 49-51 or whatever.
Yes.
These seem a little bit reserved.
Yes, there are some bylaw proposals too. We'll discuss those when we return. We'll kind of continue our.
I'm sure they'll be talking about 18 game. I mean, there'll be those kind of talks going on here.
Absolutely. We'll continue with kind of the owners meeting 411, the primer, the need to know here, as we are just getting started from the Biltmore in Arizona, beautiful Phoenix, for the 2026 NFL Annual League meeting. Joining us now is a name and a voice that you're all familiar with if you are regular listeners to SNR and to The Drive. It's our buddy Chris Halicke of DK Pittsburgh Sports. Chris, what's up, man? Thanks for taking the time, and got to imagine you're enjoying this sunshine a little bit just like we are.
To the point where I've tried to not, but bothered my wife a little bit, who does not like the cold weather, likes the hot weather, born and raised in Texas and everything. And so she's like, what's the weather going to be? I'm like, what do you think the weather's going to be? Then I got some really angry texts and everything.
I was going to say, you two are a little younger than me. You're hasn't been married as long. You haven't been fathers as long and whatnot. Really? Yeah. Longer than I thought. But I've learned quickly, don't take pictures of the dinner that the Steelers bought you that's like surf and turf, or send it home when they're eating steakums, or don't send, the weather here couldn't be better, blah, blah, blah. Nobody's happy for you back home.
It's very, very true.
So you're saying the picture of the sunshine and the palm tree that I sent my wife this morning, that one might get me the doghouse when we get back on Wednesday?
Chances are she's not like, oh, I'm so happy Wes is having a great time. All right, well, I'm here with the 2 kids.
Chris, let's get into it, man. Plenty that we want to discuss with you. A lot of different rule proposals, bylaw proposals. That's kind of the meat and potatoes of what's going on here the next few days. What stands out to you? What do you think is the most intriguing thing on the docket?
It sounds kind of boring to me, but maybe it's just because the practicality of it. Right now, the way things are, when somebody gets placed on IR before the season, they have to miss 4 games, and you're not allowed to return them to practice until after those 4 games are gone. There's a proposal on the table to allow that player to have their 21-day window opened after, I think, the first game, so that they could then practice.
We didn't touch on that one.
While still going through those 4 games that they have to miss.
Interesting.
And that way, if they are going to miss those 4 games, they've already been practicing, and then they can make that decision, hey, okay, they're at the end of their 21-day window, we're going to go ahead and activate them, and then they can play in the next game. So it's not like 4 games.
So how does it sit now? I'm a little confused.
Well, because right now it's 4 games no matter what.
Doesn't matter when you got hurt.
You can't go back to practice or anything. You're out for 4 games. obviously when guys then first get back on the practice field, they're not just immediately they're recovering from an injury.
Sure.
So there's a ramp up that has to happen, which is why there's a 21-day window. So, like, in theory, they're out for a minimum of 4 games, but they really might miss 6 or 7. So this way, especially if it's an injury where you're like, hey, we know we're not going to have him for the first 4 games, but there's a really good chance that we can have him back for week 5 or our 5th game, and then he can do 3 whole weeks of practicing in that process right now of being out for those 4 games. That's not the way it is right now.
Okay.
So that, to
The
me,
way you propose it seemes like that's an obvious yes.
that's what I would think.
Yeah.
What's
the
the
downside?
practicality of it makes so much sense. Now, like, so that's why, like, it's not one of the like grabbier rule or bylaw proposals or anything like that, but it's the one that intrigued me because I'm like, dude, why isn't it like this already?
Yeah. So why did it take this long? Right. Yeah. What's the downside of that?
That one kind of stood out to me. There was a few other ones, but that one kind of stood out to me.
Okay. Are you in favor or not of being able to trade draft picks 5 years in advance?
I'm not really a fan of it.
We didn't like it at all.
I'm not a fan of it.
We didn't like it one bit.
I worry that it would get too NBA-ish, where you would get halfway through the season
Yeah.
and a third, 40% of your league would already clearly be punting on the future.
And just watching the lesser product from a lot of teams.
I don't like it. I think 3 years out is a pretty. I think that's about as far as it should go. So no, I'm not a fan of that at all. I'm trying to think. Like, my mind's blanking on some of the other ones, but yeah, that was another one that's kind of fun. The Steelers' proposal of making what the thing last year permanent.
Explain the behind the scenes and kind of the logistics of that too.
Yeah, what do you know about that one?
So, the negotiating window is funny because it's like it opens and like teams can then talk with players' agents, but this way you get more access to the player. And
that's kind of what we thought.
Okay, you get more access to
you cut out the middleman.
Yeah, and so and then that again, that's what they did last year, or it's what they've done like this year because of what was passed last year. And so, but it was just on a 1-year trial basis, and so now they want to make it permanent. Again, with the fact that it was voted in, and I haven't heard anything about like this went terribly. This is like so I would think that's another slam dunk. But we'll see whenever the owners get together and vote on it. But I think that's another one that's pretty interesting.
I couldn't figure out if 5 was a big number or a little number though. That the Steelers presented you could do with 5 different players.
I think so. I mean.
Maybe it's a good place to start and go from there. Next year we might be talking about let's bump it to 8, whatever.
Yeah, and then you can always adjust. I think that's what like the whole point of these like bylaw proposals and rule proposals is sometimes you started off on a trial basis, and then if the trial goes well, then let's vote to make it a permanent rule. But then that rule can continue to be amended. That's too many players, let's pull it back. Or hey, we still don't have access to enough players, so let's bump it to 7 or whatever it is the next time. So I think that's why like these meetings, while like they don't grab a lot of headlines unless there's something like the tush push being talked about, which is not being
dynamic
talked about this
kickoff.
year.
Yeah, we were talking
right.
Yeah.
And there is quite a bit on the dynamic kickoff this year too. So, like these meetings are productive for sure, and definitely helps shape the future of the game.
Oh, definitely.
Chris Halicke with us here on The Drive. Chris, what are you hearing about Matt and I were having some conversations, starting to get a little worried that we're going to have a replacement referee situation and some of the chaos that ensued in 2012, a repeat of that here. What are you hearing on that front? Do you share our concerns?
There's definitely concern whenever the two sides aren't talking. There's always concern about that. For those who are baseball fans, I mean,
lockout. You start,
It's almost an inevitability at this point because the two sides aren't talking. There's and then you go to this between the league and the referees, and if they're not talking, that's never a good sign. But what else are you gonna do? Like, this is part of what negotiating is, and sometimes certain sides will do certain things to get what they want out of it. And right now it's going to be who's going to blink first. The good thing from the referee's perspective is everybody saw how poor they went last time. The referees didn't forget that, and fans haven't forgotten that.
It's been almost 15 years, but I think we all remember it vividly.
And there's going to be, potentially, if he resigns, there's going to be one member of the Steelers if Aaron Rodgers does come back, who will remember that
he
very,
was front
very
and center.
well.
That's
I
right.
didn't think of that
Good
part.
call by
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
So, he will that will be something fun to talk about if it gets to that. Hopefully it doesn't, but when the two sides aren't talking, that's never fun.
So speaking of Rodgers, it's kind of a two-part question here.
Yeah.
If he decides he doesn't want to play football or doesn't want to play for the Steelers again, do you think they pivot to a Cousins or a Carr type move?
Not as a starter. Not as an unquestioned. The day you sign the contract, you're automatically QB1. I don't.
You think you think? Okay, well, what do you think would happen? Do you think they would even go down either one of those type of roads?
What I would think is they would try to bring in a veteran to go along with what
Maybe
they have
a name
now.
like that?
Yes.
Okay, that's had started game.
And then it would be something along the lines of, okay, you have that veteran signing, you have Mason Rudolph, you have Will Howard, and potentially you also have another quarterback that's drafted.
That's my two-part question, too, is do you think they draft a mid-round guy?
Yes. I would lean toward them taking a quarterback in this class, Rodgers or not. That's what I am leaning toward right now, based off.
I've
of
really
the
been on
things
the
that I've
fence
heard.
about this, yeah. Not on what I've heard, of just what I would do.
But if Rodgers is not part of the equation, I think he will be. But if he's not, I think what you'll have by the time training camp opens in Latrobe, you'll have a legitimate quarterback competition going on. That's what I think you'll see. I don't think anybody's going to
Maybe
be.
a three-person quarterback competition?
Could be four.
No, okay.
Really.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, because you'll bring in four quarterbacks. Now, I would think that whoever would be drafted, whether it be Ty Simpson, maybe if it's Ty Simpson, you draft him in the first round, he'd get a good look. But if it's more of a mid-round guy, if it's Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Aller, like Cole Payton, like that type of guy, no, I don't think he's going to be front and center to be the starter right away. But you give him a look, you give him a chance. I think Will Howard would get a chance. Mason Rudolph having the experience he has, and then obviously if you bring in somebody else like a Kirk Cousins or something, like they'll come in and they'll have a chance to compete. And they'll probably have the leg up, but I don't think anything is guaranteed at that point.
So along those lines, Rodgers, Carr, Cousins, whoever. Let's say there's an old guy, and there's a new guy, a third-round pick, Nussmeier, or I like Cole Payton, whatever. Howard's going to make the team.
Yep.
That seems to me Rudolph would be the guy that's on the outside looking in.
I would think so.
Yeah,
At the
and maybe
same
you
time.
can flip him for a seventh-round pick or something.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, because you're not keeping four quarterbacks. You're not the Cleveland Browns. So you're keeping three quarterbacks, and if it has to be, I think, and really when you're talking about the future of the quarterback position with this franchise, you don't have that guy to go get in the first round this year. Like, you have all this draft capital. You'd love to be able to go trade up and go get a guy. Well, that guy doesn't exist.
Right.
So what you have to do is, for this year, you still have to try to find something for the future. That means dedicating resources to developing Will Howard. That means possibly also drafting a quarterback, and not just drafting him in the third or fourth round, whatever it is, and then just cutting him unless he just goes to training camp and it just bombs.
Well, he'd have to be terrible.
Yes, like absolutely terrible. Be like, gosh, this is already a bad draft pick.
Yeah.
I don't think that would happen.
But that's not the plan when you pick him in the third round.
No,
That's
it's
for him
not.
to stink.
It's not. So you could realistically, and from a Will Howard perspective, it almost makes sense for him to go from, okay, he had his redshirt year as a rookie. I mean, he was active one game when Mason Rudolph was a starter in Chicago. Didn't play any snaps, obviously. Okay, well, now this time, if you want to take a step forward, now maybe he ends up being the actual backup. Like, if Aaron Rodgers does come back, and
I'm hoping Howard by cut-down day is a solid 2.
That's what you would hope.
Yeah,
and that's what
I don't think that's asking too much.
No,
it's best case scenario.
Yeah. And so then you have, then at that point, your third could be, if you draft a guy, would be that guy who would then be what Will Howard was last year. He's if everybody's healthy, he's never active. He's the emergency quarterback.
Yeah.
Maybe he's active for a game or two as the backup. If Rodgers is
or
injured,
even he's a Cole Payton and you have a Taysom Hill package for him or something.
Something like
weird
that.
like that. Yeah.
But then you'd have to activate him. You'd have to have three active quarterbacks that day. But yeah, I think when you're talking about the future of the quarterback position, you have to start dedicating resources to developing. And I think the fact that Mike McCarthy is now the head coach, you're in a better position to do that than you were in the past.
Okay.
A few more minutes here with Chris Halicke on The Drive. Chris, we were kind of in the first hour kicking around things that, other than rules proposals and specific bylaws, things like that could be discussed by Mike McCarthy, by Omar Khan. Do you expect any type of clarity on Broderick Jones potentially this week, or are we going to just have to wait and see in the summertime on his health and status?
I don't think we're going to get anything solid on that this week.
I'm sure people will ask, though.
Oh, no, he'll be. I mean, McCarthy will be asked about it. Omar will be asked about it because McCarthy will talk with Pittsburgh reporters tomorrow. Omar, I think, Tuesday.
Yes.
So both guys are going to get questions about Broderick. I don't think we're going to get any clarity. And the reason why isn't necessarily because they're trying to keep things under wraps or anything like that. This is just such it's an unpredictable injury. I mean, Asante Samuel Jr. had his own fusion thing. He's able to come back and play. But then I remember Ryan Watts.
Yeah.
Final game
right.
of the Detroit, the preseason when he was drafted, he has that stinger near the end of the game in that preseason finale in Detroit. He retired.
Yeah,
like this
has ended careers.
It has, and that's why when you think about this and you think about from the Steelers' perspective on this, like they don't want to just discard him. Like he was a first-round pick.
Still young.
Yeah, he's still young.
Very talented.
You have a fifth-year option decision to make, and with they have to know if they're going to pay him that kind of money for the fifth-year option. So if they
I can't imagine they pick up fifth-year option.
If they
I don't know how you could.
Yeah, I would lean toward not picking it up right now.
I mean, if his level of play was a lot higher and this injury's out there, then I think it becomes more of a debate.
I would think so too.
And Cook didn't exist.
But even if let's just say Broderick was playing at like a really high level, like there weren't like the bumps and bruises that he's dealt with and the ups and downs that he's dealt with. That kind of an injury that could possibly be a career ender, you're then like literally handcuffing yourself because it's a guaranteed money. It's a full cap hit. It's what, $20 million, something like around so. That.
Yeah,
it's
big.
That's a big chunk.
Yeah.
So
I think the answer is no.
I don't think they do, and
May 1st is the deadline, by the way.
Yeah. So it's
about a month.
There's a little bit of time, but I don't think that they're going to end up picking up that option just because I don't think they're going to know. I really again. I don't think this is a situation where they know what's going on with him. They're keeping. They are still trying to figure this out, and then he's still recovering. He's still going through it, and they're probably talking with him and going through this entire process with him, and they just don't know.
Got to wait and see.
Yeah, and that's a really unfortunate situation to be in for all parties involved.
So therefore, and other reasons, I look at left side of the O-line as probably the second biggest need. I don't know if we even have to rank them. And I would not object at all to taking a first and third round offensive lineman or a second and fourth round offensive lineman. I don't think taking two is crazy. And I don't think a first round offensive lineman is crazy.
Yeah, I can see it happening. I think the way the first round goes, I don't think Vega from Penn State will be there at 21. If he's still there somehow at like 16 or 17, I would think long and hard about trying to trade up to get him. He's that type of a player. Like I'm not gonna put this kind of expectation on him or anything like that. But the first person I think of when it comes to Vega is David DeCastro in terms of what he could provide. Possibly he could be a stable force on the interior of the line for a decade. That's what you would draft him to be. He's talented enough to do it. He's athletic enough to do it. He's a very, very good player. I would think about that long and hard, but I also think that they really need to address wide receiver as well.
Sure.
So, no, I could see that happening, but I also do know this. If they don't, they really, really like Spencer Anderson, and they really like Dylan Cook. It would not surprise me at all.
I think Hoffman's not a throwaway at all either.
I don't think he's a throwaway at all.
Yeah.
I think you'll see a legitimate competition between Hoffman and Anderson for left guard if they don't draft a guard higher up in the draft. I think you see a legitimate competition in training camp between those two guys, but they really do like Spencer Anderson a lot. And congratulations to Spencer, brother. He just got married. So
did he?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Chris Halicke, DK Pittsburgh Sports. Great stuff as always. One of our regulars here on The Drive, albeit this time about 3,000 miles away from home.
Dude.
What, 2,500 miles away? 3,000 sounds better. We'll stick with that. Chris, thanks for taking the time, man. Enjoy yourself this week.
Yeah, we'll do, man. Thanks for having me, guys.
So, I'm sure most of our listeners have heard us talk about this a couple times, but if you haven't, Matt has done this a few times. This is
my 4th or 5th.
I was going to say, not as
my 2nd time in Arizona.
Not as extensive as all the times you've been to the Combine and things
Sure,
like
sure.
that. But you have done this annual league meetings a few times. This was my first time. Yesterday we were here, Matt, for our first show, and it was like us and the New York Jets were the only people here, and it was quiet.
Right.
They didn't even have
There was an empty Texans booth to our left.
Yep.
Yeah, right. That was it.
The media room, I think, had maybe 3 or 4 people in it. Now it's got 30 or 40. We had to struggle just to get waters and coffee yesterday.
Couldn't.
Now there's food and beverages everywhere around this place, so it's really picking up today.
I shouldn't complain, but yesterday I kind of forgot. I made a rookie move, and I'm like, I'll eat like a small breakfast bar before we came over, but we started later. And I come over, I'm like, I figured there'll be a ton of food and coffee. I'll be fine. Nothing.
Matt had to like steal a cup of coffee and got yelled at.
I frankly stole it. Yeah, I snuck in somewhere I wasn't supposed to. Didn't realize I was doing something illegal. But I did get a cup of coffee. Went home and just feasted. I was starving. Today's quite the opposite. And frankly, people watching on YouTube might have some idea. But I mean, just the hustle and bustle and the people that you're going to hear walking by, and this hallway was pretty quiet yesterday, and everyone's setting up all the stuff behind us. And we walk in here, and there's an awesome breakfast, and NFL Network and ESPN and all these places are set up, broadcasting right next to us, and
Schefter and Florio and Kay Adams and all these people right behind us.
And right in front of us is salon number 4 there. It had all the NFC coaches. When we came out from breakfast, they were all rushing out, and they're everywhere. It's great. It's a pretty cool environment.
And a certain host on this show might have bumped into John Harbaugh in his Giants gear, and he goes, "Oh, Steelers! You guys are a little bit better with me now. It's all right.
Okay. We're back in his good graces.
Have fun in there." But yeah, so it's it's funny because
these coaches are having a good time. It's pretty relaxed.
You mentioned last year how you and Dale talked to Harbaugh for a few minutes, and he just must be a friendly guy because he saw my Steelers polo. We almost bumped into each other walking in. He was like, "Hey, Steelers, man! Hey, come on, we could be friends now. I'm in New York." So yeah, it is certainly picked up here today, and expect that to continue for the next few days. NFC head coaches spoke today at their annual breakfast. AFC coaches will speak tomorrow. Some GMs have spoken here today, and that will continue tomorrow as well. So, Matt, as we like to do a few times a week, and particularly I think when we're at events like this, how about we start with a little news of the day, all the moving and shaking here on the grounds?
Yeah, super quick before you do, I just wanted to paint the picture. Like I mentioned, salon number 4. Really all it is a ballroom. And there are 16 big round tables in there. What do they hold, a dozen seats?
I'd say about
something like that.
It almost looks kind of like a wedding reception.
Yeah, exactly.
And everyone has their table, and here's where you sit.
And there's a sign that'll say, Harbaugh Giants, and there's, Stefanski, Falcons.
Nick Sirianni's the table right in front of us that I can see there.
And anyone, including us, we could have just walked up there and either sat or hovered around Atlanta, Chicago, Minnesota, whoever. And anyone that has credentials can ask them questions or, that's the NFC coaches breakfast. Tomorrow's the AFC, and obviously there's more ties to us, but that's what's going on. That's the mornings.
Yes, it was. There was actually, speaking of which, Kevin O'Connell, the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, had his availability this morning.
Okay.
There were a couple Pittsburgh.
I haven't heard any news from things that was said, so I'm excited to get into this.
And I want to potentially dig into this one, maybe kind of separately as its own entity, but it's for our purposes, it should probably lead off this conversation. Kevin O'Connell had great things to say about Brian Angelichio. Of course,
great.
Steelers, Mike McCarthy's first offensive coordinator here, and heading into his first year as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Brian Angelichio was with the Vikings organization, of course, working under Kevin O'Connell. And Kevin O'Connell had a lot of great things to say about Angelichio. He thinks the world of him. He was sad to lose him. He thinks it's a great hire for the Steelers.
Great.
And so
Did
that
a Pittsburgh reporter ask
was
about him?
yes.
Okay.
I believe it was both Mark Cabali and Noah Strackbean were there and just asked him a couple questions about Angelichio, and he had nothing but great things to say and thinks it's a well-earned opportunity for him to step up into a role here with the Steelers.
So we talked about that. It's one of the harder conversations I have every year, and I've never had to do it with the Steelers, where they're building a coaching staff. Like my other outlets, I do this for every team, and it's always really hard to comment on because, frankly, before he was a candidate for the Steelers, I had never heard of Brian Angelichio. He was, and then it comes across, I Wikipedia scouted him, as I like to say.
Yep.
tight
Love that
ends
term.
coach, and I think he was passing game coordinator. But I mean, like when you see tight ends coach, tight end coach and running back coach are kind of the lowest guy on the totem pole that isn't a graduate assistant type or
Sure.
a quality control guy. It's a great job. Don't get me wrong, but I mean you're an NFL coach, but it's not quarterback coach. It's not offensive coordinator. So immediately you look at him like, that doesn't blow my doors off. But then you realize passing game coordinator. Then you start really digging in and you find quotes from coaches he's worked with and realize that guys like that are so instrumental behind the scenes that even people in our business would have no idea how valuable they truly
correct.
are.
And that's what you like to get into these circles and try and
Yeah.
find out. Here was the exact quote, from Minnesota head coach Kevin O'Connell on new Steelers offensive coordinator Brian Angelichio. And I quote, "What always kept coming out was similar philosophical beliefs in how you attack people, specifically in the pass game, but he has a really good understanding of the run game and how to marry the two together. He's been vital for me in the red zone in our 4 years together here. So when you look at it, whether it's situational football, early down success, how you tie it all together, he is prepared for this opportunity. It is long overdue for him to get to coordinate."
Awesome. Exactly what you want to hear. Right. Again, I mean, like, another thing people don't 100% understand, nor do I exactly right now, but, I mean, during the course of the week, they will break down. You think you have all this time. You have 7 games or 7 days between games.
I've told you, Moats used to make that joke all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, everyone in the NFL thinks we've got so much time.
Oh.
You don't. You never have time.
Really
You're always on to the next thing.
Yes, and you're on the team flights. I'm sure you see coaches from yesterday, Tomlin's staff digging into the opponent on the flight home.
We get on the flight and the video guys are handing out iPads.
Yeah,
I mean, and they're going right to work on the flight.
Okay, you got the Vikings next week. Get ready. There's not time. But anyway, so thus, I mean, a big thing that happens throughout the week is you have this job. Hey, tight ends coach, you have this job. Hey, assistant passing coordinator, you're in charge of red zone, but whatever it is. But
you're in charge of third and long. You're in charge of red zone. You're
we
in
have
charge
to break this into
situational football.
Right.
Yeah.
And whenever we practice red zone, you basically run the offense. Doesn't mean you call plays on game day, but you built how to attack the Steeler red zone or whatever it is.
You put the hay in the barn.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone is on the same page, and there's a lot of coordination that goes into that. And it sounds like red zone was one of Angelico's big things.
That's what I took from Kevin O'Connell today, and I'm very interested. We talked a little bit yesterday about the tight end position, Matt.
Yeah.
And maybe this was something we should have brought into the conversation when we were having it yesterday. That's shame on me. But when you look at some of the tight ends that Angelichio worked with in Minnesota, the T.J. Hawkinson's types, the Josh Oliver
and
types.
They went out of their way to go get Hawkinson. They paid it and stole him, or didn't steal, but they made a trade within the division. I mean, that doesn't happen very often.
It feels like it's an exciting time to be Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington.
Yeah.
And potentially, as we mentioned, it feels like not with a priority pick or anything, but with those 12 draft picks, I'd be surprised if they didn't come away with another tight end to throw into.
I think they absolutely will, probably in the mid rounds and probably at a value. But it's funny you mentioned. I hadn't thought about that either. I immediately think McCarthy's offense. But
sure,
you're hiring a tight end coach, and it's funny because you mentioned Josh Oliver. He's very Washington-like. I mean, he's one of these real in-line, mash-your-face blocker types that when you face a ton of nickel or
6'5", 270.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have a long career doing that. Washington's a little more special, stands out. I mean, there's no tight end in the league like Washington.
No, he looks like a tackle.
Especially when he's rumbling down the field and all those things. But they have basically a Freiermuth type in Hawkinson and a Washington type in Oliver, who's, again, 270. He's one of the best blocking tight ends in the league, and he'll play in this league as long as he possibly can, like a Mercedes Lewis.
Yes, that's a good comparison. And I think those types that he worked with in Minnesota, that kind of pairs well with what he'll have in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's kind of where it's going with it, right.
And I think that could be, I think we thought last year tight end was going to be a real strength of the offense, and it
sort of underwhelmed.
It's sort of underwhelmed, I think, just in the grand scheme of expectations with those two and Jonnu Smith coming off of a massive year in Miami.
Maybe you didn't want them on your fantasy team, but overall the room did pretty well.
Yes. But maybe this is the year that it really becomes a true strength and a true matchup.
I'm hoping because I think it's one of the best position groups on the team.
Yes.
And they are going to add something to it. I absolutely believe that.
Yes. So, Matt, that was kind of the biggest thing that caught my eye from the coaches speaking this morning. I do want to get into more of that, obviously, but there were also some of the GMs talking today.
I thought it was just coaches. Okay.
So Omar Khan will speak tomorrow, but some of the GMs are going today, some are going tomorrow. It's not the same exact clear-cut line in the sand like it is for NFC and AFC with the head coaches. I think it's just kind of up to the GM's schedule.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Kind of like it is at the Combine. You know,
yeah.
You have your obligations that you have to fulfill, but you could do them within your own timeline or exactly when
I'll
it
knock
works.
it out today, too, or I'll talk it out today at 10 or
exactly
whatever.
right. And so with that.
Is that up at the podium by themselves? That's in a different room,
I believe so. That's in what?
The
That's
podium
in
we were at.
Salon 3 down there. Yes, where Matt and I got our pictures doing our best commissioner impressions yesterday. And yeah, it was pretty cool to see it all come to life today. But with that, Andrew Berry saying that the tweaks to Myles Garrett's contract that we saw recently are unrelated to a trade and that they want him to be a Brown for life.
Yeah, this might be a bigger conversation than we have time for this segment because I don't believe it. I really don't. And I guess this is sort of new news, but late last week we didn't get a chance to really dig into this conversation. But my take on it is a little over 1 year ago, Myles Garrett demands a trade. I mean, flat out, wrote this big thing.
Posted it
goodbye
all over
to
social
Cleveland.
media. Yeah.
I mean, it was no secret whatsoever. And we know he went back and had a ridiculously good year, by the way, which is also influencing here. But he sold the fans the narrative, I believe, in the Browns process. Now, they also gave him a massive, massive contract and made him by far the highest paid defensive player in NFL history a year ago, which he deserves, and he went on to prove he deserved it. But I believe, and there's a little tinfoil hat here, that Garrett had a heart-to-heart with the Browns after he demanded a trade and said, again, I'm guessing, okay, I'll give you a year to prove to me that you guys do have a plan and this is going the right direction. I want to be part of a winner. I understand my legacy. I don't want to be the best pass rusher on one of the worst teams in the league. Right. I've seen this before. You know, I mean, and my hunch is when the contract came out on my Locked On show, we started talking about it, saying this makes him more tradable. The Browns, who, frankly, when Garrett demanded the trade, I flat out said on many airwaves, this is a gift.
It's probably a blessing for them.
They should say thank you because they're in such a bad spot. They can maximize his talent. And I said at the time his value is probably only going to go down. I was wrong because he had a better year and is even better now than he's ever been.
Man.
But if you're the Browns and you just looked at the Max Crosby trade that almost went through and think, what can I get for the better version of that? And Garrett's thinking the same thing. I just set the sack record in games we were never winning. I may have had 5 or 6. I know people hate hearing this, but this was true for TJ in a lot of his career. How many big leads did those guys play with?
Not many.
Not many. Yeah, I always say it all the time. How many times in TJ's career have they been up by 12 in Accushore, Heinz Field, and everyone's waving the towels, and the whole world knows they're just teeing off?
And you know they're throwing the ball.
Not many.
Not
many.
In
Garrett's never. He's probably looking at it if I go to the Lions or the Bills or whatever, and the Browns have to look at it I might get the value of 3 first-round picks out of this guy. I mean, at least 2.
The value is undeniable.
The value is undeniable.
Especially,
so I don't think this story's close to being over.
Especially when you kind of combine it with the Max Crosby backdrop that you just mentioned.
Yeah,
and
right.
Yeah, I think Crosby's a year or 2 younger, but Myles Garrett is
and
that's not a knock.
That's
not a knock on Crosby.
Right,
He's
Crosby's
great.
incredible.
Myles Garrett is the Defensive Player of the Year. He just broke the NFL single-season sack record. And so, yeah, that is an interesting conversation. And you're right. I don't think this story's over as much as Cleveland can, and I'm sure will, try and throw cold water on it.
And that's exactly what they should say.
It's exactly what they should say.
But he can't be possibly thrilled with this. Are you happier now being a Brown than you were 1 year ago when you demanded the trade? How could the answer possibly be yes?
I can't imagine so.
Right.
It feels like you've taken even, not drastically, but more of a step back here than
if I'm
where you
looking
were
through
at
his
last year.
lens, I'm like, we're still at least as far. At least they're turning things into picks, and I see that there's a vision here, and they had a good draft class. So, okay, that's step one. Now we're a year away from being a year away.
Right. They've
Last
got no
year,
offensive line.
They have no, I mean, who's the quarterback? I mean,
They've got 5 quarterbacks, Matt. You know what they say about quarterbacks. When you have 5, you have none.
They're distant fourth in their division, even with a really good defense and the best defensive player out there. So he's got to be thinking, man, I'm less happy being a Brown now than I was 1 year ago when I demanded a trade. I mean, that's to me is the logic. Now, that being said, one more layer to this. Think as those around you think. If I'm the Browns, I want to hold this off past the draft. Because what I want to do is, if I really intend on trading him, I want to do it after the draft.
To get 2027
next
picks.
year's picks.
Yes.
Right. Or even wait to the trade deadline when the Lions are 7-1, the Browns are 1-7, and he's got 12 sacks and is unblockable. I'm like, okay, you want this? Detroit or whoever, Buffalo, whatever. Now we can talk about all kinds of future picks,
That makes a ton of sense.
I don't think the story's close to being written.
I don't either. And there's one kind of more thing here about the contract language of the tweaks that they made to his deal that I want to discuss with you.
Okay.
And we've got to continue.
I didn't 100% understand it. And my only interpretation was why change the we can get back to it on the other side. But, I mean,
why change the language of the contract if it's not a precursor for something else?
It made me think they had a handshake deal when they signed it originally. Like, I want a year from now, if his agent says a year from now, I want you to change this wording if we choose. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm guessing, but that's the only thing that adds up.
Matt, a ongoing story from this week, and one that I think is going to probably linger to training camp, if I had to guess now.
These next couple of days might really pick this up, too. Get the snowball rolling down the hill,
According to all the conversation yesterday and today, the NFL and the NFLRA, which is the NFL Referees Association.
You don't hear that very often, but I bet you're going to hear it more and more.
Let me just real quick set the scene for everybody. I think if you're listening to this show in March, if you're listening to a 24/7 football network in March, you probably know a thing or two about football. You've probably heard of the NFLPA, the NFL Players Association.
Yep.
We've had instances in the past, we've had conversations in the past where the NFLPA and the NFL have collective bargaining agreements. How many games are going to be played in a season? What are certain parameters on salaries and salary caps and things like that, and franchise tags and travel and all these
all sorts of things.
How much they're allowed to practice and what training camp can look like. And you're familiar. All that stuff is collectively bargained between the league and the NFLPA, the NFL Players Association. Well, what I don't think everybody is hip to is that there is also an NFLRA, the NFL Referees Association, and they have the same type of contracts with the league that the Players Association does.
I bet they're not as powerful, but
I bet they are not as powerful. But they certainly have a big role and a big effect on this.
Yeah.
And if you'll all remember, back in 2012, there was a situation where there was a strike with the Referees Association to start the year. That was the famous game, actually involving Aaron Rodgers, funny enough, in the Green Bay Packers in Seattle to open that season. And Aaron Rodgers throws I can't remember if it was Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, but throws the Hail Mary on the last play of the game, and there's two replacement refs, and one standing in the end zone signaling touchdown, and the other one's there signaling incomplete pass, and it was famously called the Fail Mary, and there was a bunch of controversy around that moment. Well, Matt, according to everybody here, boots on the ground, it sounds like the NFL and the NFLRA are far away from negotiations and agreements on a new contract, and the NFL has begun the process to start hiring replacement refs.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that's putting the pressure on them. They must feel like they're pretty far off. Now, I know about football. You know about football. We don't know a ton about labor negotiations and whatnot, too. It's another topic that I am not going to claim to be an expert on. Maybe this is step one of just putting pressure on your opponent.
And we know
it's a tactic.
Much like the Myles Garrett, we're not trading him conversations. Everything is about controlling the narrative and winning the negotiation.
Absolutely, and which is going to be part of this, putting pressure on your opponent to get the best deal you possibly can. There's tactics involved, of course, but not what you want to hear. I mean, as we sit here, at the end of March?
End of March, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you would hope that these aren't the stories you want to be talking about for between now and opening day.
Yes, I think that's a good way to put it.
Most of our listeners are like, boy, I just hope this goes away and we have to hear about it again.
Exactly right.
Yeah, right.
And there's a very good chance that could be the case.
Yeah.
There's also a chance, like I said, that this could linger into the summer and up to the start of the regular season, because we all know that's the classic, I think, kind of 11th hour of negotiations, right?
Sure.
We've seen this.
Deadlines get things done. Right.
Deadlines get things done. We've seen this before with NFLPA negotiations, where it's like, oh my goodness, could there be a lockout?
Could there be a strike?
Could there be a strike? Could there be a delay to the start of the season? And then they get something done in the 11th hour. And so there's a very obviously real possibility that that's the case. But the NFL has compiled a list of college officials to recruit.
Wow.
And they're expected to add some replay enhancements. We discussed that yesterday that would accompany this to make life a little bit easier on those replacement refs. And
I got a question for you about this now I think about it. So does the SEC have refs?
Yes, every conference has their own refs.
Okay, and they're
ACC,
they get
Big
checked
12,
from
SEC,
the ACC
Big
or
10.
from Big 12 or
Yes.
whatever. Okay.
All the way down into the
MAC
PSAC
and all the way down.
and
Yeah,
MAC
of
and all
course,
that
of course,
stuff.
of course.
Yes.
I thought so, but okay.
And they work other games. So, for example, sorry to cut you off there,
No,
but
please.
like the national championship game was Indiana and Miami.
Yeah.
Big 10 ACC. I believe it was a Big 12 officiating crew that did the national championship game.
Someone's got good ratings.
They also
did
do
well.
that in the bowl games, and in the beginning of this season, Ohio State will play Texas,
Of course.
like in a
Yeah, yeah.
non-conference game, and they'll bring in an ACC officiating crew.
But
So those
just like the
guys-
Super Bowl for the national championship game, it's the best crew.
Yes,
You know,
if
it's
you're
got
getting
good
those,
ratings.
if you're getting those
and-
big games, if you're getting in the the playoffs and
You
the
have a good
college football
reputation
championship,
and-
you
yeah.
obviously have a pretty good reputation. Yes.
Okay, that's exactly what the preface I wanted to lend to this. Okay, so you said, and Miami plays Indiana in the national title game, and they bring in a Big 12 staff, which they probably think, I'm just going to assume, is the best referee staff in college football that's not part of these two conferences.
Correct.
Okay.
I would imagine that's the
That's
hiring.
who they want.
That's who they want. That's
Right,
the hiring.
right.
Give us
We're giving you
someone
the
who's
first-
neutral, so they can't say, "Oh, he's just favoring the Big
Right.
10 team," and has very high ratings. Yes.
And they say, it's an honor, we're offering you this job for this day first. You can refuse it if you want or whatever. Okay. Well, here's where I'm going with this. I assume the NFL reaches out to that exact same crew, says, you're the best. Do you want to be our replacement crew? Wow, that sounds awesome. But the rules are really different. Really different.
Cool.
And, I mean, that, to me, that's almost like learning a new language. I'm trying to think as those around you think. If I'm that ref going, I'm really good at ref in college, it'd be like if someone asked me to go.
It's almost like going from algebra to calculus.
The example I was going to use is like if someone asked me to talk about Pitt and WVU. Like, it's football, but I don't know the same.
Or if someone asked you and I to be on TV, like to do a television studio football show.
Right. Or, I have to do it in 3-minute
what?
increments as opposed to 3-hour increments.
It may be like a lot like if you're a radio, if you're Rob King and you're doing the Steelers broadcasts on radio, to all of a sudden you got to go do a national broadcast for ABC.
Yeah,
or
right.
CBS.
And the rules are just different.
And the way you call games on radio
Absolutely.
is way different than you call games on TV.
Right.
It's in the same ecosystem, but there's a lot of differences.
I mean, it wouldn't be like asking me to talk about tennis, but I mean, but it's still, there's a lot of nuances, and rule books take a long time to learn.
Totally.
And
the catch rules are different. The down by contact rules are
speed
different.
of the game is way different, and the stadiums and where the play clocks
Overtime
are.
rules, all these things.
So what I'm saying is, okay, NFL goes to that Big 12 group. Hey, you're our first choice. You're awesome. Okay, thank you, NFL. That sounds great. But what's the chances I'm actually going to get the gig? Am I going to relearn everything
For 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks until you guys seal the deal? And you know what I mean? Like, I'm happy where I'm at. Leave me alone. You know, like, like it would be hard for me to say yes to that job.
That's a great point.
Knowing I'm probably just going to get replaced as soon as the deal gets signed.
And then does that
does
cost
Big
me,
12 still want me? And
exactly
right.
right.
I mean,
all of a sudden, did I lose?
They're
going
to
to
play games with or without me.
Did I lose my seat at the table at the
Right,
top of the
right.
the collegiate pecking order just to go work 2 or 3 weeks in the NFL?
Right. Which is reason number 100 that the NFL should have a minor league system. You just bring up the best guys from the Morgantown Steelers. You know what I mean? The State College Eagles or whatever, you know?
State College Eagles. Yeah.
But, I mean, if I'm a great college ref, I have a good gig. I'm not saying yes to that.
You know what? And all the different angles of this that I had thought about, that's
It
the
just
one
dawned
thing
on me, yeah.
That's a great point by you because, why am I going to lose my seat at the table?
Yeah.
To go work a couple weeks in the NFL, and then it might
I
not
know
even,
this language, but I got to learn one that's similar but not the same.
And if I go up there,
and I'm never going to go to that country,
and I make a bad call or I get something wrong,
right. Oh, I'm
going to get crushed nationally, and I'm never going to get an
Every fan
opportunity.
thinks I'm an idiot.
Everybody thinks I'm a
right.
dingus.
You're not going to get any benefit of the doubt in that position. I mean, not even close. Yeah, don't sign me up for that.
That's, you know what, I hadn't considered that, but that's a very good thought process for you to bring to the table. So apparently,
It's pretty good being an SEC ref, I'm sure.
I've
been doing this for 20 years, and
I imagine I imagine that's a fun gig. I imagine that's a pretty good gig with gainful employment, certainly.
Yeah.
One difference, though, Matt, that I think is important in some of this language here in the reports is that, according to a league source, they want to start training new replacement officials beginning May 1st. Okay, so a little over about a month from now.
Okay.
When this happened in 2020.
And again, you have to get trained.
Big
It's
time.
not just like, here's a book, learn it,
Big time. When this happened in 2012, they didn't start the referee training until July. So that was one of the things of, like,
so they're getting ahead of it.
We're going to learn from our mistake. Last time we didn't give these guys enough time to prepare. Like you just mentioned, all the new rules, the new changes, the differences in just how the way the games are governed. 1 catch is in college football. 1 foot is a catch in college football. 2 feet in the NFL.
And those are the easy ones. I mean, the rules are way deeper than that.
Exactly, right. Like the difference in, in college, if your knee's down, you're down. It doesn't matter if you're touched or not, whereas opposed to
Mr. Jeremy Fowler
Mr.
walking
Jeremy
by.
Fowler, formerly of this parish in western Pennsylvania, walking by here. So at least they're saying or, addressing that, and we're going to give these guys 2 extra months to prepare and start training, which I think is definitely important.
Train them as much as possible.
But what if you're training your 4th or 5th choice crew and not the
best guys on the
not
MAC
the A team?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I mean, I just seen a lot of room for error here.
Well, there certainly is.
Yeah.
There certainly is. So that is what I think. Like you said it well, Matt. It's not what we want to be talking about this time of year. I don't think it's what much NFL fans want to be hearing or discussing. They don't get it. Just put the referees out on the field, let them do their job, get it done properly. Give us and that's the other part of this. If it does end up coming to a replacement ref situation that people are going to hate, there's going to be more parameters for review. They're going to expand.
That's already been.
They're going to expand.
They're talking about that tomorrow.
They're talking about that tomorrow. So they're going to expand the video elements, and so that would be something that people at home would notice and would be bothered by.
One more thing to focus on.
One more thing to focus by. One more additional piece of, I guess, potential controversy, if you want to label it that way. And also, Matt, I think there's not many things that all sports fans agree on, right? There's not many things in society that we all agree on, but I do think one of them pretty unanimously across the board. If you ask football fans, if you ask fans of any other sport too, yes, they want review, but they want it to be a speedy, quick, expedited process.
Yeah.
They don't want to see the referees go into the monitor multiple times a game. They don't want to see it taking 2 or 3 minutes to make the decision. I have a feeling that a lot of
They want the microwave version, of course.
They want the microwave version of video review, and I have a feeling that a lot of this would be the opposite of that. It would be more frequent.
Probably.
It would be longer reviews. It would be clunkier. It would slow the game down. And again, like that's something. I don't care if you're a Steelers fan, a Ravens fan, a Cowboys fan, an Eagles fan. That's something that nobody wants to see.
Yeah, true. Now, as you were saying that, I'm like, that's kind of demanding. Like, I want every play call to be right. And I want it to be super quick.
No doubt.
Like, is there anything else you want?
I also want my cake, and I want to eat it too.
Yeah, and I want to eat it too, and then I want another cake, and then I want another cake, and I never want it to be a bad cake.
Maybe some ice cream and a brownie.
Right, exactly. Like, of course everybody wants it quick and perfect. It's asking a lot.
It sure is.
Like, never miss a ball or strike call.
I'm going to
miss 1 or 2,
But then you bring in the robot umps, and everyone's like, well, what happened to the human element of the game?
Right.
You can't always get what you want. But if you try sometime,
you just might find.
You get what you need. Joining us now, a special guest. You know his work, covers the Steelers for The Athletic, Mike DeFabo. Mike, what's up, dude? Are you enjoying the Arizona sunshine? Nice to get out of the northeast winter here for a few days.
Yeah, I mean, I'm missing those low 20s temperatures and the bipolar weather we've been having in Pittsburgh. But no, it's unbelievably beautiful here right now. Perfect weather. Great to be indoors in the air conditioning with you guys, though.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to it. Pretty cool party tonight, I hear, that I'm going to get to experience for the first time. I was laughing with Matt, though. I brought my jacket, my pants, my shirt, everything. Forgot dress socks for the party, so I am going to have to get some dress socks
I can take care of you there. I'm a good friend like that.
Oh,
you got an extra set?
All right.
Yeah, I could hook you up.
Okay.
Matt forgot his slacks and had to go get a pair. I forgot dress socks. We're just a well-oiled machine over here.
I told you, though, this is like the NFL wedding. The first time I went to it, I texted my wife and said, this is the best wedding I ever have been to. There was like a 25-piece band. The guys were wearing tuxedos.
Yeah.
There was an old-fashioned bar. I ate around the world. I had sushi. I had Italian plate, steak.
Now you're speaking my
carving
language.
station. It's usually not the path I go because I'm consuming liquor and whatnot, but the ice cream bar is unbelievable. I mean, like, the desserts are insane.
They have a petting zoo for kids.
Right.
Last year they had hermit crab
The
racing.
hermit crab races, yeah. Yeah.
Hermit crab races.
Oh,
Yep.
man.
With, like, Steeler symbols on them and cowboy symbols on them, and you bet on the cowboy hermit crab or
That's
whatever.
pretty.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I was excited for tonight. Now you just put it over
It's
the
pretty
top
cool.
with hermit crab racing here. I mean, come on.
No gambling on it. I don't know about gambling in
Yeah.
in this state if that's legal, especially when it comes to hermit crabs.
That's a good point. Your secret's safe with me. Don't worry. I won't tell anybody. Mike, let's jump into it with you. Obviously, some stuff as it pertains to here that we want to discuss with you, some Steelers-related stuff. I want to piggyback off of what Matt and I were just talking about in our first hour of the show here as we kick off hour number 2. What's your temperature check? What's your vibe around this kind of current stalemate, standoff between the league and the Referees Association? Do you think that this is just it's the right time in the calendar, they're posturing for kind of the narrative and negotiations, or do you think this could be something that could linger, deep into the summer and close to the regular season?
I mean, we've seen once before that it did linger into the season, and Aaron Rodgers was a part of it,
Yes, he
and
was.
not a big fan of those replacement referees.
Right.
And referees are funny because they have a tough job, and they're not always very good at it, and it's easy to criticize them. But when you don't have them and you have people that are not as prepared to do the job, then you even see how difficult that job really is. So you hope for quality control and for the betterment of the game that they do get this resolved. But, again, they weren't able to last time.
So, speaking of Rodgers, two-part question. Low-hanging, quick answer. Do you think he's going to be a Steeler and the starter in week 1? Part 2, assuming that gets done before the draft, or if you don't think so, let's go down that road too. Do you think they draft one or not? I'm really on the fence if it's the right move.
So, it's interesting because around the combine time, I talked with people, I think, at all levels of the organization, from players who had been in communication with Rodgers, through the public comments and stuff that Omar Khan and Mike McCarthy made and other decision makers. And their whole feeling was Aaron Rodgers was going to decide sometime in March, and they thought that it was likely, and there was optimism, that he would sign with the Steelers. I really got the sense that they believed that they would have an answer coming into this meeting, and they don't.
We got one more day. I was just double-checking the calendar here. It's the 30th. Okay.
So I think even the people who are most intimately involved in these discussions are a bit surprised that it's taking as long as it has. But I think that it really is trending in that direction. I think that the overwhelming likelihood is Aaron Rodgers is leading the Steelers onto the field week 1. Now, when it comes to drafting a quarterback, I mean, the difficult thing is this was supposed to be a talent-rich QB class.
Right.
It's basically fallen apart because you've got guys that either failed to meet expectations like Nussmeier, like Drew Aller. You've got guys who chose to stay in
Injuries
school.
Yeah.
And then you've got both, like the Lenore Seller guys. So really your only option early would be Ty Simpson. I would be almost shocked if they go that route.
Me too.
I think that the 15 college starts is going to be such a turnoff for this team.
Yep.
And that's going to be such a deterrent for them. So then you're talking about who else would they go for. They had a handful of quarterbacks that they met with at the Combine. They also hosted Carson Beck.
They're going to be familiar with Nussmeier.
They are very familiar with Nussmeier. They met with him at the Senior Bowl. So they've already had a sit-down meeting with him. I think Carson Beck is interesting. I know if the fan base isn't all in on him. They seem to be very against that idea. But they brought him in for a reason, and I think that he's really the opposite in terms of versus Ty Simpson. He is a guy with nearly 3 times as much starting experience. Not all of that good, but I think that when you're talking about drafting a quarterback in like the 4th round. So to answer your question, Matt, I could
They have
see
a lot of picks.
I could see them using like a 4th round type pick on a quarterback, but not something early and not something aggressive.
I don't think either one of the top 2 rounds will be a quarterback.
No.
I mean, if Nussmeier's there in the 3rd, I understand. If another one of these names, Cole Payton, et cetera, I understand. But I'm kind of just torn. Is it worth it at all?
Yeah, it's a good point because, I think there have been times where the Steelers have had a lot of QB2s on their roster, but no QB1. It's like the guy in your fantasy football league that tries to trade you a bunch of backups for your starter. having a Mason Rudolph, having a Kenny Pickett, and having a Mitch Trubisky doesn't equal a QB1. You can't add them up together.
They don't all equal Ben.
Right.
Right.
So build one in the aggregate.
So, I mean, it's not the worst. Even if you had Rodgers come in, it's not the worst idea to take another quarterback in the mid-round and then that guy also get the Will Howard experience, because Rodgers was an extremely willing mentor to Will Howard. He should be credited for that.
To me, that's one of the biggest allures. I just want someone to hang with Rodgers for a year.
And that happened from quite literally Aaron Rodgers' very first day on the practice field. I watched him there work with Will Howard on his footwork. Aaron Rodgers was like specifically
those first OTAs.
Yeah,
I remember that
when
too.
Rodgers wasn't even practicing.
He was wearing sneakers.
Yeah, he didn't even work out, but he was working with Will Howard, and that continued throughout the year. So that would be maybe the advantage to doing so. But I get your point. If you use that pick on an inside linebacker instead,
safety or a guard
safety,
or whatever,
a
right?
guard,
right.
And just save
And
that
you're
pick.
still planning on taking one in the first round next year. What's it get you? And you're probably cutting Rudolph or trading Rudolph.
Or you trade that, fourth round pick for a pick in 2027, and that's part of the excess draft capital you can use to then take your aggressive swing. So, I mean, I could see the argument for just rolling with the current quarterback room. So I think it probably hinges upon how much they actually like these guys in the draft and what does Rodgers say and when.
One thing I would throw in, just because I want our listeners to remember this, I remembered vividly that first OTA session he had signed like 5 minutes before.
Right.
And I remember just everyone on the planet was staring at Rodgers, of course, and we were on the air. And all I could think was, this guy is so engaged for every second that his body is on the football field. He's either coaching up Freiermuth or Howard or Washington or Metcalf, or he's sitting there with the quarterback coach and the offensive coordinator getting coached up. I mean, every second he was engaged.
And he even led a meeting every Thursday. It was a player-led meeting where he stood up in front of the room. Will Howard was the guy on the computer, working that thing. And I think for the most part, he was very well received by his teammates. Now, Aaron Rodgers is, by his own definition, a perfectionist. And he demanded excellence and perfection out of his teammates. Sometimes we saw that spill over to him going and getting in Roman Wilson's face, but really, overwhelmingly, I think that those interactions were positive because he was demanding specific things. And you look at Mike McCarthy's offense, the whole West Coast offense is based on timing and precision. And if a guy is not coming out of his break when you need him to, when you're at a certain point in your drop and in your progression, it doesn't work. And that's why
5.5 yards, right? Not 5 yards, not 6 yards, 5.5 yards.
That's why
Bill
he's
Walsh,
like that.
6 inches in front of the numbers. Not 8, 6 inches in front of the numbers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's where that all came from. And that's where I think that's some of the extra benefit of Rodgers. Like, we know that maybe his mobility isn't what it was. The deep ball was more inconsistent than I expected to be last year. But he still has the arm talent. And more than anything, he has the mental makeup to be the leader of this offense.
Mike DeFabo of The Athletic with us here at the league meetings on Steelers Nation Radio, Steelers Audio Network. Okay, I guess then this leads me to, let's say Aaron Rodgers decides, you know what, I'm retiring, I'm sailing off into the sunset. Maybe I don't want to face down the replacement refs again the first couple weeks in September. Then what becomes the plan for the organization? Is it Will Howard, Mason Rudolph, another draft pick, go to Latrobe and see what happens? Is it bringing another veteran-type guy, a Kirk Cousins, a Derek Carr, a Jimmy Garoppolo, some of the names that are still available? If Aaron Rodgers is not a Pittsburgh Steeler, by minicamp, by, training camp, in that summer kind of timeline, what do you think the plan is? What's plan B for the Steelers if it's not number 8?
Yeah, and that'll be a good question that we'll get to ask Mike McCarthy today. But, my sense is that the Steelers do have a lot of faith in Will Howard. There are people, Mike McCarthy's on record praising him and talking about how much he likes the potential of Will Howard because of his big frame, because of the fact that he won a national championship at Ohio State. That's all appealing to this team. And other people within the organization also are quite high on Will Howard and his potential. I think that Will Howard would be given an opportunity to compete for the starting job. And then I think they would fill out, if they brought in, I think they would likely draft a quarterback like, that day 4, day 3, or round 4, round 3 type pick to round out the room. But if they brought in a veteran, from what I've heard, it would be to compete with
Sure.
the rest of the room, not necessarily the sign the guy, give him the QB1 title.
So they currently have 5 picks on the first 2 days, which is great. They have an immense amount of draft capital compared to the rest of the league. Quarterback aside, Rodgers aside, what positions with those 5 picks would you write down in blood is going to be one of the 5?
Offensive guard, surprisingly, has turned into, I think, maybe the most glaring hole on the roster right now. You look at what they did in free agency. They got a wide receiver, too. They, upgraded the defensive front, added some depth there. Mm-hmm. They got a cornerback to start opposite Joey Porter Jr., added some safety options. The one thing that they really didn't do is find a legitimate upgrade and replacement for Isaac Seumalo. Now, I know that they have Brock Hoffman and Spencer Anderson. Mm-hmm. The way that they're
not terrible options, and I'm not saying you're implying they are.
Right. But my read on this, or the way that I would look at it if I'm the Steelers, you've already invested 2 first-round picks, a second-round pick, and a 4th in the offensive line with the goal of this group not just being pretty good but being dominant.
Sure.
And the only way you can continue along that same trajectory is with a guy that is an upgrade to Isaac Seumalo, or a guy who at least is at that same caliber. Mm-hmm. And so I wouldn't count out even in the first round going with an offensive guard. But certainly I think within the first 3 rounds that will be a position that they're looking to address. Wide receiver once felt like the obvious need. It's diminished to a degree because of Michael Pittman. You don't feel that urgency to get the first-round guy. But I still wouldn't be surprised if they went wide receiver first or second round. That makes a lot of sense to me. And honestly, going back to the offensive line, this Broderick Jones injury uncertainty.
That's what I was going to ask you next, if you had any clarity on his next situation.
I mean,
nobody seems to have any clarity.
The way I understand it, like, someone has said to me, it's not necessarily a death sentence for his career. I mean,
but that's not the most encouraging framing of it either. It's not like, oh, he's going to be fine.
Like it's so. I think that could be something that lingers. Like, and the other part about this is they likely would have or should have probably picked up Broderick's 5th-year option, because you look at the fact that it will come in around $20 million. Dan Moore Jr. allowed the most sacks in the league and turned around and got $20 million by 4 years. Okay, that's the going rate for a starting offensive tackle in this league. But
not even good ones.
Right.
Right.
So I feel like, now it seems unlikely that they would pick up Broderick's 5th-year option. Sooner than later, you're going to need a new starting left tackle, whether it's week 1 of this season because Broderick's not healthy in time, or it's next year. So I feel like all of a sudden, offensive tackle that looked like they had shorted up for the long haul, that's now becoming more of a question mark for the team. And then I guess another thing would be a nice pick would be a true pure free safety.
I was saying
with some speed on the back end.
Jaquan Brisker,
the
team thinks that he has the versatility to play, a variety of positions within the secondary, including free safety. He was kind of inconsistent. That was kind of the knock on him, is his eye discipline wasn't really great when he was in center field there. So if you got a guy that, at least gives you another option there. Not to mention, I mean,
he's going to help on special teams and
yeah. So I think
Brisker's on a 1-year deal.
I think all those positions would make sense, and I think, in the middle rounds, if you can get an upgrade to Malik Harrison, that linebacker.
Is it Sharkey? He's still on the team?
Is it maybe feel like a Cordero Patterson type situation?
In terms of getting cut?
I think they maybe have to wait and see how the draft pans out. But I just feel like they've got 2 guys in the mold, like Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen are kind of similar, where they're both that rangy coverage inside linebacker. You trust them in sub packages, but they're both better if you've got that real downhill force, the Landon Roberts type player.
Banger, yeah.
And I think that Malik Harrison, he was injured for some of the year, and I don't think that he was what they were expecting when he was on the field healthy. So I feel like and this is a really, really good inside linebacker class.
Yeah. It's good safety, too.
Good safeties, too. Yeah. And cornerback, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got all these picks, and I'm naming all these positions, but
they can do all of them.
That's the other wild thing. Like, I wouldn't even count on a corner as early as the first round if they like a guy enough, because I know they got
true outside corner.
I know that they got Jamel Dean. I know that they got him, but still, I think that if the right corner was there, I think that they would see an opportunity.
Very interesting. Any restructures or anything coming down the line? Highsmith, TJ Watt, still in a fine cap position that you don't have to consider that?
Yeah, I think that
I guess DK could be a candidate too.
they could go that route if they need to, but they don't need to right now. And so I think that that's kind of a last resort. If they were in a position where they had an opportunity to bring in a player, they needed to create the cap space. But Omar, remember, I mean, he made his reputation by being a master with the salary cap and moving those numbers around. And right now, he's put the Steelers in an excellent cap position right now.
Exceptional.
And so right now you don't have to, but things could change down the line.
Last thing I got for you along those lines too. Do you expect some extensions maybe in camp too? Porter, et cetera.
Herbig.
Yeah, I think that all those guys from Omar Khan's first draft class.
Benton maybe.
Happens fast, doesn't it?
Pretty much all of them, you could make the case that they deserve an extension. So a guy like Joey Porter Jr., I think that probably will get done. The one that I wonder about is Nick Herbig, because obviously his performance merits it, and you would love to have that guy long term. My question, and I don't have an answer to this, I'm speculating, what would he want?
I'd want quite a bit.
Well, and the other question is, would you want to basically prove yourself this year and hit the open market and really see what your value is on the open market?
Bet on yourself.
Does he want the money now? Does he want the security? Do they make it financially, a situation that makes sense for him? Or would he want to say, I'm betting on myself this year. I'm going to play this out, and next year I'm going to be a coveted guy that more teams than just the Steelers are going to be interested in throwing some money at.
It's a lot to ponder, a lot to consider. Great stuff with our friend Mike DeFabo. Make sure you're checking out all his work in The Athletic. Enjoy all the hustle and bustle today, and we'll see you at the dinner party a little bit later.
Can't wait. I'll be saving you a spot over by the old-fashioned bar.
Over by the old-fashioned bar.
Hermit Crabs.
I want to make.
I'll see you by the Hermit Crabs.
I was going to say
I'm
I'm trying to get front row. I'm trying to get floor seating for the Hermit Crab race. I can't wait. Great stuff.
That might be a Florida-only thing. I don't know.
Wouldn't they have like Gators or something else race if it was Florida?
But last year was Florida, and it was Hermit Crabs. I don't know.
Oh boy, we'll see what
like
Phoenix.
Scorpions or something out here.
Yeah, that's right. It's a scorpion. some kind
rattlesnake.
Some kind of rattlesnake, or tarantulas or something like that. We'll see. We'll report back tomorrow. Live at the NFL Annual League meetings, and joining us now, a special guest, ESPN senior reporter, very special, formerly of Western Pennsylvania, formerly covering the Pittsburgh Steelers for ESPN. Used to stay in Latrobe in the same dorm wing as myself and Matt Williamson not too long ago.
That's right.
Jeremy Fowler. What's up, partner? How you doing?
I'm good, man. We were just a few legends dorming it up together.
That's it. That's
living the frat life.
Very much so.
St. Vincent.
I heard you were a formidable player on the hoop court at St. Vincent too. The rumor has it back in the day.
Yeah, I can play a little bit. I still try to play, but it's I'm in my mid-40s now, so it's tough. It's tough to get around.
It gets a little bit tougher. He's got the height though, for sure. Does Jeremy Fowler? Well, thanks for taking the time, man. Let's jump into it here. I'm sure you know where we want to start. What's the latest on Aaron Rodgers? What are you hearing? Are we any closer to the finish line than the start of this thing?
I wish I could tell you there was some sort of 1-year or 2-year deal finalized right now, but I just don't sense a lot of momentum at the moment. That's not a reason to worry. I just, when I check with people with the team, they said, hey, hopefully we find something out before the draft, but there's really no firm timeline right now. So I think it's in the same place. I still expect him to be a Steeler. And, it seems like the relationship is good, and it was a good experience for him. And Mike McCarthy knows him well, but they haven't had to pivot yet to anything else. So it's just with Aaron Rodgers and his timelines for multiple off seasons, like it's always been an unpredictable proposition. So it's hard to really know exactly what to expect. I know they've done a pretty good amount of homework on this draft class. I don't know what that means. It's because it turned out to be not an overly strong one depth-wise, but, maybe in the middle rounds, do they look at somebody? And then, you have the Will Howard conversation. I mean, when you talk to people with the team, they do speak up Will Howard.
You think that's real, huh? Yeah. They're at least enthusiastic about him.
Probably, right. I think there are layers to it. It's a layered discussion. Do I think that they're high enough on him where he's got to start right now? No. But I was told they were really impressed by how he handles the huddle, how he handles the operation. Like, he was ahead of the game with that stuff, with, like, the nuances of the position. So because of that, they do like him. Now, do I think they're ready to start him? No. But, yeah, it's somewhere in the middle. Are they overselling him a little bit in the absence of Aaron Rodgers? Maybe. But I do think there's genuine interest in what he can do and how he can develop.
So you mentioned pivoting away from Rodgers. Did you have any inclination that they were in on Kyler Murray, or they would go to a Cousins or a Carr or anything like that if Rodgers fell through? Or maybe that is a possibility at this point.
I just haven't heard anything hard and fast with that. I definitely don't think they were in on Kyler Murray or any of the quarterbacks that signed, Geno Smith. So,
you don't think Willis was ever crossed your mind really either, huh? That was the one I thought is different than all the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I think they evaluated it, but I never got the sense they were going to be in on it. It was really Miami, Arizona for that one, was my sense all along.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
It'll be interesting to see what the Rams do, because it looks like they'd like to bring back either Garoppolo or maybe sign Kirk Cousins as a backup. Whoever doesn't sign with the Rams, they'll still be out there. Does Pittsburgh just want to get a guy?
Maybe Cousins to the Raiders.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
I do think, if we're playing dominoes, I know the Raiders were in talks with Joe Flacco before he signed with Cincinnati, but they just couldn't come to an agreement. So he's like, well, forget it. I'll just go play for Cincinnati again. So because of that, they can pivot to Cousins. I do think that might be the play. But does Pittsburgh want to get involved with one of those two guys is just to have an extra option? I still don't sense they are doing that, which tells me that it's probably going to be Rodgers, but we just don't have any evidence of that yet.
You think Carr will be in the league this year?
I don't.
Really? You don't think there's enough people banging down his door after a year off?
I think the window has passed, especially when you sit out a year. It was kind of a clumsy exit in New Orleans with the injury and the $30 million. I don't know. I don't sense teams are clamoring to sign him, no.
Okay.
Jeremy, 22 days until the NFL draft opens, of course, on the North Shore of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Go ahead and get in line for the tunnels now if you're trying to make it on time. Do you feel like, with the sense that it's not the strongest draft class, and particularly at the quarterback position, we could see less movement, a more static draft this year than typical years?
Possibly. It really depends on how you view a Ty Simpson, for example. I've talked to teams who think he could go in round one, but it's tough because, not all teams value him as a first-round pick either as far as a grade, So does this go the way of Shedeur Sanders where he falls, or does he become an option kind of like Jackson Dart last year where he was ascending more toward the draft? Then you had the New York Giants come in the late first round to make a trade to get him. Could you see somebody do that? So I still think he'll probably go in the first somewhere, but I don't think it'll be high. I think it'll be more later. And – yeah, outside of that, there just aren't a lot of slam dunks. Garrett Nussmeier, I still think will be a day 2 pick somewhere. And if you go back to his 2024 tape, was pretty good. So Drew Aller at Penn State has a lot of ability, but a lot of questions. There's just a lot of polarizing prospects at that position. That's going to be more so for the mid rounds, mid to late rounds. I don't sense a lot of movement outside of Mendoza at 1.
Including the quarterback market, but I think overall, do you think it's safe to say that the league is coveting picks for next year's draft more than this year's draft?
It does
like
seem
if the
that
Steelers
way.
can dump a third rounder for a second rounder next year, it might be harder to swing than you think.
It does seem that way. It's funny. I feel like I hear every from other teams like, oh, it's not a really strong draft, and they're only like 10
next
or 12,
year's draft's better, right?
10 or 12 first-round picks, and next year's draft is better. Yeah, I feel like that's the conversation a lot. And this year's draft was supposed to be a good quarterback draft if you asked people 8 months ago.
Yep.
And then it wasn't. So it's always fluid. And, yeah, but I do sense, at least from a quarterback position, there's supposed to be more
options at least.
Yeah, just
first round.
Maybe a little more flair at the position than you have this year.
Jeremy Fowler with us here on The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio, the Steelers Audio Network. All right, Jeremy, one, both, or neither? Myles Garrett, A.J. Brown, trades from their current organization. One of those guys, both of those guys, neither of those guys playing for a new team in 26.
I'll say A.J. Brown traded. Myles Garrett stays. I mean, the Browns have been pretty, definitive, I think, in that they're not trading Myles Garrett. Maybe there's a little wiggle room there. It's just hard to believe because they're not a good team, and you figure he can go somewhere and win. But
really cash in on him now, yeah.
Yeah, just I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense for them to trade him. He's clearing away their best player. He's still good enough to help win games on his own at times. And the Browns do, even though they're in transition, they do expect to be better offensively this year. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. A.J. Brown, that's been building for months. I've talked to people with other teams back in October and November who were sort of projecting that they would have to trade him. And Howie Roseman's message this week is, well, A.J. Brown's an Eagle for now, and that's all I can say. Well, a month ago he was saying, you don't want to trade away really good players.
Yep.
So the tune is different now, where it seems like it's inevitable, I would say. It just depends on when. But I don't think he wants to be there either. So it just makes sense to move on at this point.
Last thing I got for you is along those lines, too, is do we think Max Crosby is now a Raider and not going anywhere?
Well, yes. I would say the draft is always a time where things can heat up a little bit. If we're talking about timelines, right now it's sort of dormant. Late April, does somebody make a move at him, try to buy low on him a little bit compared to what the Ravens would have given up with the 2 first-round picks? I don't think the Raiders want to do that at this point because they know they can't get a great return, and it didn't work out. You have the stigma of the knee issue, but then you also have a really good player back in your building. So it seems like both sides are willing to move forward with each other for now. And then, but you never know.
If it's like a trade deadline thing. The Lions call them at the trade deadline, and you can still have them.
Yeah, there's a scenario that is workable, right? If you go into the season, he shows he's healthy, training camp early in the year, playing really well.
Got 5 or 6 sacks.
Yeah, the knee's not an issue. Then maybe you do it at the deadline. I think that probably makes the most sense.
One more for you before we let you go, Jeremy. What's your temperature gauge, heat check on this standoff between the league and the NFL Referees Association? Are we going to have another replacement ref scenario? Is it still just in the posturing and the kind of narrative phase of this, and you think something will get done before the season? What's your confidence level on all this?
Man, well, I think it is some posturing going on, yes, but the league is prepared to hire replacement refs, and they're prepared to do it here pretty soon. So that does apply some pressure. It's complicated because those guys, I feel like, take more scrutiny now than they ever have.
Sure.
So I think as a result, they're fighting for their rights a little stronger, more fervently. So that's why it could take some time. It's a concern. It's probably the biggest concern here. The league has nudged people around it and inside it to not talk about this stuff, and but the negotiations haven't really gone anywhere. Usually you'd like to see at least a little progress by now. So I think that's the biggest concern. So anything's on the table with that. I mean, it feels possible that you could have issues here. And really, the bigger conversation is, the league office in New York has their kind of mothership now where they have 100 cameras. They got this big control room.
Yep.
They can start to make more calls. They're going to vote this week on whether they should be able to intercede on, like, let's say something unsportsmanlike that happened that they can identify and throw a flag on from New York. So it's going that way, and that's looming large in these discussions as well as how much influence will New York continue to have.
Great stuff as always. Jeremy Fowler, you see him all over the place. SportsCenter, NFL Live, ESPN.com. I assume you'll be in Pittsburgh here in a few weeks for the draft, obviously.
I don't think I will.
No?
Actually, I'm usually in Connecticut for the draft, just doing things
sense.
locally. I'd love to, though. Man, I need to lobby for that.
Get back to your former stomping grounds.
Yeah, man.
It's going to be nuts.
It's going to be fun. Great atmosphere.
It sure will. It sure will. Jeremy, thanks for taking the time, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Steeler Nation, and welcome back inside the Biltmore in Phoenix, Arizona for our final day of league meetings coverage here on The Drive. Wes Uhler and Matt Williamson with you. It's another bonus 3-hour show, and we are off and running, Matt.
We're rolling. Morning's starting great.
We are on cloud 9 right now for a trio of different reasons, okay?
So many.
First of all,
I don't know how you narrow it down to 3.
First of all, Mike McCarthy's breakfast this morning. We have the audio and all the good information and details from that we're going to actually play for you here in just a few minutes. You and I had a lovely time at the annual league owners meeting dinner last night.
Pretty impressive affair.
Incredible food and who's who of the football world.
Yes.
And then we finally here this morning got our Nike swag bags, our giveaways. We got a bag from Nike. We got a bag from New Era. We got a bag from Fanatics. I got a couple NFL hoodies for my daughters.
Yeah.
We got probably $2,000 worth of merch stuff.
I mean, just
here
getting it on the plane is going to be an adventure. The puzzle pieces to build it. And lovely breakfast. We get to do this show.
Yep.
I wouldn't narrow it down to 3.
No,
and the weather's
you're
fine
right.
as could be. It's going to be a big Steeler day, starting with Coach McCarthy's breakfast. I mean, we got a lot more AFC and Steeler stuff to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
And then back on a plane tomorrow.
Exactly right. It all happens very fast, but it's been a lot of fun. And, yeah, that dinner last night was certainly something. By my estimation, 2 sushi stations, 2 steak stations.
Oh, yeah.
There was a
With
bunch
salmon
of
there,
salmon
right.
and seafood and stuff, too. Then there was a burger truck. There was, what am I forgetting? Pasta station as well, too.
Yeah.
And about, I think 4 different open bars with a bunch of different crazy cocktails and fun drinks and all different
And kind of a
kinds stuff to
high-class
see.
band going.
A very classy band that was playing, with a really good lead singer. And it was so it was a lot of fun last night. The NFL's Who's Who last night there at the annual league meeting owners dinner party.
Yeah, and kind of paint the scene. It's pretty cool. Like, you go through the resort a little bit, and then you go and there's like a huge bar area with all kinds of water features, and that's like the lower level. And as the night went on, it seemed like a lot of the more recognizable folks were down there, just doing their own thing. I mean, no one's swinging from chandeliers or anything, but I mean, they're having a good time. And then, like you mentioned, you go up to the next level, and it's almost everything on the right is the same as everything on the left. Okay, like start with sushi, start with, like everything parallels each other. Big band in the middle, big area in the middle.
Like a big fancy wedding reception.
And then we went to the left, and we were calling that Kittyland because there was a lot of, like, things for kids. There were ponies over there.
Petting zoo.
That was crazy.
And
yeah.
You could make friendship bracelets.
Yeah.
And selfie stations, all that different kind of stuff.
Yeah, and an amazing, where we spent some time, was this particular bar area. We're making smoked drinks. There was only 4 drinks to pick from. One was an espresso martini, which was not my bag. You were doing some sort of tequila smoked something or other.
It was basically a
be.
smoked watermelon margarita. It was as refreshing of a drink
ridiculous.
as you can imagine. Yeah.
And we were doing like smoked Manhattans, and it was great. And I didn't realize till the end you got to pick which wood they would smoke with. Did you catch that? It was either cherry or something else. Yeah. I'm not sure I could tell the difference, but hey, they were going down good, and we had a good time.
They sure did. We got some customized bag tags that the NFL gave out too. I got to talk with, maybe if you list the distinguished WVU alumni. Of
course, your bag tag says WVU on it.
Right? Well, that's my initials. What do you want me to do about it? I think I slot in maybe at number 2, right behind this Pat McAfee guy. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he hosts a national show on ESPN.
Yeah, you went and chatted with him a little bit, right?
Talked to McAfee a little bit. We've got a bunch of mutual connections. He's been on the WVU show that I do a few times. I do a show with one of his former teammates, Owen Schmidt, who played in the NFL for a few years for the Eagles and the Seahawks and the Raiders.
They were teammates, you said, right?
They were teammates at WVU, yeah. So that was fun.
Owen had to be a heck of a teammate. I just remember him as a draft prospect because he was like a 265 Patrick Ricard fullback type dude.
Absolutely mashing face masks. So we got to hang out with some of our friends in the Pittsburgh media. We got to hang out with some people in the national media. An incredible dinner, a really cool sight to see, and then today kind of being the cherry on top of all this,
This will be our last show from here, but right.
And our last show from here. Mike McCarthy, lengthy head coach's media availability
it was good.
Today. It's almost like I don't want to say a breakfast setting because it's not like everyone's eating, but
but it's in the morning.
It's in the morning around breakfast time, and they all sit in a ballroom around big, circular tables, and everyone can kind of local media, national media, get in there and ask a bunch of questions. And there is obviously a bunch that the Steelers head coach Mike McCarthy had to say there that we want to discuss further. And Matt, I think, of course, you have to start at the top with all the latest on Aaron Rodgers. Saying that he actually talked to him last night, that he's spoken with Aaron Rodgers, quote, every couple of days. They talk about life. They talk about football. They talk about what's going on at the facility. I quote, I would just say he's in a very positive space. We'll just continue to engage in our conversations. He was also asked about if he'd be comfortable with Aaron Rodgers missing OTAs, said he didn't want to get into any hypotheticals. Quote, I truly understand why you're asking the question. I'm just focused on my next conversation with him, end quote.
Yeah, and that all sounds, again, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but that sure sounds like there's a really good chance Aaron Rodgers is going to be the starting quarterback. And the communication actually surprised me to that level. I mean, we don't need to narrow it down. We talk every 2 days or whatever, but I mean, obviously they're in pretty constant communication, and that's not even mentioning how often Tom Arth talks to him or Cam Hayward, even for that matter. I mean, they're friends. I mean, they could be talking about their kids or whatever, or Omar or whatever. Like, I don't think they're running by personnel decisions. Like, do you approve of Michael Pittman, Aaron Rodgers? I don't think that kind of stuff's happening. But the constant communication I thought really stood out because there's obviously massive mutual interest here.
Totally. And that's where this all continues to go. It is,
yeah.
You know, we're not going to get an answer until we get an answer, but all the tea leaves continue to come up that this is the future for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're a little distracted here because Emil from video just brought over a Gatorade can.
Yeah.
Canned Gatorade. That's
Look at this. I haven't seen one of these, I don't think,
Oh.
since I was like 10.
That's rare right there.
Yeah.
That's like pulling a Barry Bonds rookie card. That's the good stuff right there.
I'm going to have to try it. It's been a while.
I'm gonna need a couple of those things. Gatorade out of a can is just hitting.
Might have to grab one for tomorrow morning too.
So that was the biggest, I mean, just in terms of the general conversation, Matt. But a couple things that also really stood out to me. Maybe the quote of the day.
Couple things did, yeah.
Quote of the day from Mike McCarthy. You got to love this when asked about Caleb Johnson, who we've had that conversation and how he fits into the Steelers running back room and how you attack that position group in the draft. Mike McCarthy on the Steelers running back who's heading into his sophomore season with a lot of question marks. Quote, I am aware of their past experiences, but this is like a Catholic operation. If you say 3 Hail Marys, everybody has a clean slate, and let's get to work, end quote.
Which I think is a great way to do it from a new staff. I mean, obviously the front office has what he put on tape or didn't put on tape is still out there. And you don't just throw away what you think of the player just because a new coaching staff comes in. If you question his pass blocking or his cutting ability or whatever, I mean, you still need to analyze the player as impartially as possible, without question. But you and I have been saying this for a while. I mean, really since the coaching hiring, that I feel like Roman Wilson and Caleb Johnson are not necessarily the happiest, but sort of the career-wise, the happiest of – we can get some new eyes on us. And I don't think it was personal. We don't like these 2 draft picks or whatever. It's just, it didn't work out. They didn't live up to expectations yet. They're still young. And they get a kind of a new lease on life. And I'm glad McCarthy sees it that way.
And I'm glad you bring up Roman Wilson because McCarthy said that he recently had a great conversation with Roman Wilson saying, new system, fresh start. I'm hoping he's one of those guys that would benefit from it. I was impressed talking football with him. There's a lot of people that have a lot of love for him in the building.
Good. I mean, they're obviously going to continue to address that position, but to what degree might tell us a little bit about what they feel his chances of not necessarily even making the team, but being a real contributor are. I mean, do they envision him of maybe he is a number 3? Like, I definitely think they're going to take one in the top 2 rounds or very, very early. But is there at least a story they could tell that Wilson might be our 3? Is he competing with a 2nd-round pick and a 5th-round pick, and the 2 of them are going to
one's the 3 and one's the 4.
And battle it out, or situationally they'll be out there differently. Who knows?
He was also obviously asked about how they approach the quarterback position in the draft, and he said, I'm hopeful there will be a quarterback, at the right time there for us to probably add to our roster.
That was one of the things that really stood out to me.
And he said the other part of that is, okay, what's the ceiling, what's the floor? Sometimes I get excited about the floor. That kind of sounds like a mid-round quarterback a little bit to me, Matt Williamson.
Yeah. Again, I have mixed feelings if I think that's the right move or not. Sure. And I really could make equally strong cases if I was the prosecuting or defending attorney in terms of should they take a 3rd to 5th round quarterback. And obviously a lot of it has to do with who's available and who it is. You don't just take one to take one. But what stood out to me, what you didn't mention there, he said something along the lines of, I wish I had 5 quarterbacks in my quarterback room every year. I wish the NFL allowed that to happen. And it kind of dawned on me that would be probably good for the league, to be honest with you.
That's the development system that you talk about.
Yeah, right. Maybe they could make every team gets 4 quarterbacks no matter what, and then somebody
roster
break the
exemption
rules
or salary exemption or something.
Yeah. Like they just don't count against. You get a 50-man roster and 4 quarterbacks, something like that or whatever. And would that be so terrible? Have a guy hovering around for a year or 2 just under Rodgers and all the stuff he would learn?
Yeah.
I'm sure someone would cheat and put Taysom Hill in there and then make him into a tight end or something. But whatever, they can legislate that.
The last thing that
he wants to work with more and more young guys at that position, which
makes
is
sense.
Kind of his specialty,
And then the last thing, Matt, we got about, 2 or 3 minutes here till we got to go to break, but I wanted to make sure to mention this. He talked about one thing that really stood out to me. I put like 2 stars next to this on my notepad here. He talked about how position flexibility is so critical for offensive line.
Yeah.
How often do you start and finish the year with the same 5 offensive linemen? It's rare. You got to move those guys around. You got to make it work on a week-to-week basis. That made my ears perk up because we've talked a lot about the Steelers' interest in one of those offensive linemen that has the potential to play guard and tackle.
Yes.
Some of these interior guys that can play all 3 positions, guard, center, guard. That made my ears perk up because I think that's an even now that just reinforces what we've talked about, a real option for the Steelers at 21, at 53, early in the draft, one of those offensive linemen with versatility and flexibility.
Yeah, and I don't want to look too much into it, but the only offensive line addition they made was Hoffman, right?
Yes.
And
he can
play all 3.
positions.
Yeah, right. It's not just because he played with McCarthy, in Dallas. I think that position flexibility is absolutely important in that conversation. As much as I like Ione from Penn State, that's my only thing I don't love about the situation is if you plug him in at guard, you'd probably never move him anyway.
Because he'd be so good.
Because, he's a guard and he's really good at it, so you wouldn't move him anyways. But it doesn't influence your left tackle problem at all or potential upcoming problem where some of these other guys, Proctor or
ENH
or whoever, have a
even
Fanu, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of those guys.
Have a more of a guard. Then maybe tackle path.
Yeah.
And that might be a tiebreaker for me, but
Maui Go is like that too. Now, he's going to be drafted way out of the Steelers' range, but there's a lot of guys that fit that
mold, right?
Yeah.
And I like that better, but if he's a great guard and you never have to move him, that's a pretty good problem to have too. Don't get me wrong.
If he's Alan Faneca, you'll take it.
Yes. One other thing that did stand out to me, I know we're up against it, but every time I've heard him speak in a public setting, he's very appreciative and knowledgeable of those who came before him here. And obviously him and Tomlin overlapped as head coaches, and they had a relationship. But he even brought up
against each other in a Super Bowl.
Yeah. But he even brought up Austin and going back to Cower and Knoll. And and it's not just because he's from Pittsburgh. I'm sure that helps. But I think he realizes what was built here, and I'm going to keep it going. I'm not going to change the course of this train. We're not laying new tracks going the opposite direction.
As a guy who's been the steward of probably the 3 biggest NFL franchises in the Steelers, the Cowboys, and the Packers,
pretty crazy.
I think he gets how important that lineage and that history is when you're with organizations like that.
I got a kick out even when Rodgers signed. He talked about how obviously there was Jets in between, and he did mention them. He's like, now I've been a part of two of the big, people know that stuff, especially the older folks that have been on the league a long time and appreciate it. Yeah,
they sure
do.
do.
That's real.
So that's the Mike McCarthy hour here of the drive to get us started today. Joining us now, a familiar voice, a familiar name, of course, the co-host of the Steelers Blitz at noon on the Steelers Audio Network with our guy Tom Opperman. It is Chris Adamski, also covers the Steelers for the Trib. What's up, Buzz? How we doing? You enjoying this Arizona sunshine?
It's a dry heat, I hear, right? It's a dry heat here.
It makes sense, though. I finally get it. Matt and I were talking about this morning.
The Uber driver today,
90 degrees here doesn't feel like 90 degrees.
You're right. Exactly right. It's become a cliche and like a joke, but it's actually true. Like, you come here, it was like 92 or something yesterday, right?
Yep.
It was warm, but it didn't feel like 92 in Pittsburgh is a different 92.
Exactly right.
Our Uber driver was asking us where we're from. Oh, you're from Pittsburgh. He's like, yeah, I'm going up there in August. And he was all worried about it. He's like, what's the
guy lives in Arizona.
He's like, it's super humid up there.
Right, like, what's the humidity like up there? I'm like,
it's not like
Georgia
and Florida and, what you hear about the South. But, yeah, I love this weather out here. Now, I'm sure it's much different in June and July and August when it's 115 degrees outside. But, man, I can't imagine many places with better weather in March than here in Arizona. Certainly, it's been a welcome development after the winter that we had back home. Chris Adamski, any difference in so you were at the Mike McCarthy breakfast this morning. You've been boots on the ground here for about 24 hours now. Do you feel any differently about Aaron Rodgers today than you did maybe 24 hours ago or before you got to Arizona? Where are you at in this whole ongoing conversation?
I'd say it's more just a reaffirmation, more so. I probably felt that. I was going to say I do, probably feel more confident that Aaron Rodgers will be here or be with the Steelers here at some point. But I probably felt that 2 days ago too. So I don't know how much it could have been more but I guess reinforced. I guess is probably the proper way to look at it. And
been a lot of communication. It sounds like.
Yeah. You wouldn't think. I know they have a human relationship, not a coach, and they've known each other for 20 years or whatever. But I don't think they'd be talking to each other on the phone every other day, as Mike McCarthy's acknowledging over and over again that they talked last night after the meetings and everything yesterday. So I don't think you're doing that. I don't think they did that
last year or the year before.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So there's obviously a purpose to it. I don't think they're breaking down what they're going to do on the 2nd and 3 and in the first quarter of a game. But I do think they're he said he's involved. What was the word he used? Immersed in what's going on in the off season. He's keeping them. So there's definitely a degree of keeping things. Communication there, keeping them posted where they're at with everything, and I don't think it's ironclad. I don't think it's like there's a thought outside that there's this some submersive, like, oh, he's definitely coming, we're not going to tell anybody. I don't think it's that. I don't think it's like, okay, keep this quiet. But I do think there's a general feeling that this is going to happen here at some point.
Yeah, and one thing Wes pointed out from that interview too, we just replayed it last hour, was he mentioned versatility amongst his offensive linemen. And we noted that Hoffman's the only guy that they've added from outside the organization. He can play all 3 interior spots. I certainly think there's a really good chance, maybe even in round 1, that they invest in a big-time prospect on the O-line, someone to play on the left side. But do you think versatility is going to factor into that equation?
He talked a lot. You're right. You listened to about that, his philosophy in general, both, and I think that's generally just modern football anymore.
True.
Certainly in defense, but in defense, the secondary. I mean, we're going to talk a lot. I'm sure you guys are talking a lot about where's Jalen Ramsey go and all that.
Yeah.
I just feel like that'll be down to down, game plan to game plan, week to week, that type of thing. Where there might be games or situations where he's playing, but that's just what in the offensive line. It's part of that. Now, it's whether the Steelers kind of had with Sayamalo, they weren't like we couldn't wait for Sayamalo to leave. It wasn't like kick him out the door. Sometimes you get that point with a veteran guy where we're not re-signing him. I think there was interest or they wanted to have him back, or they were open to having him back.
Yeah.
So it would be sort of disingenuous to say, well, they expect Spencer Anderson to just step in and play right away whenever Sayamalo could have been back, and they obviously bring in a veteran free agent like they have. But you're right. If maybe a couple months ago, maybe just me, my blind spot, I didn't think offensive line was really a big possibility for the first round of the draft. But the more and more this process goes on, the more and more you just hear, more and more you kind of read the tea leaves, the more, and the Broderick Jones thing, I think a couple months ago, I don't think I was, me didn't think Broderick Jones would be a physical question, a health question mark at this point of the offseason as we head into, soon enough here, get on the field. So I think that factors in.
There was a little bit of news about that yesterday,
I wanted to follow up
with
you on that. What are you hearing on Broderick's health?
Yeah, I feel like
it's hard to get that information.
It's. I think medically wise, I think there's the belief he's going to be cleared to even by OTAs and things like from a medical perspective. But it's also like he's an offensive line. I mean, you need to train. Your body has been sort of neck back type of thing here. We do your off-season strength program, everything like that. It can't be done really. So I think there is a little bit of sort of like, I don't think it's a matter of he'll be out for the season or anything like that, but I think it's kind of like, okay, where are we at with him? And obviously then that isn't even, I think, part of it. If he was an all-pro left tackle,
sure,
then I was like, well, okay, he'll be fine but if he had his off-season being like this and kind of not be able to do it, so I think they kind of have to, approaching it, they kind of have to hedge things, and we can't really, we'll see how it plays out, and hopefully he is back, hopefully, builds up and, gets him physically where he needs to be a starting lineman, and of course, obviously then it's kind of a separate issue, but it all goes together, the performance and where he's at and everything in terms of what we've seen from him on tape here the first 3 years of his career.
You had a good point, though, too. I mean, it's such a strength-based position, and I'm sure this is true to some degree with almost every injury, but back and neck, I'm sure he's not benching or doing rows or, anything close to upper body, maybe not even lifting at all during this stretch. I mean, he has to lose some strength during this whole process.
Yeah, you're right, because that obviously the core in the back, and there's so many, I guess you could do legs, I guess, and theoretically it wouldn't be, but just, and we're talking about an NFL offensive tackle, that's something that people come have injuries, I get it, but I just think all the questions around it, in terms of where he's at and physically and just the neck in general type of thing. It doesn't sound at all like it's anything like, not that they're different players, and I don't think that anybody really believed this, but when you start getting to the point where it's neck and things like that, last year was a player, and I skipped my name right now, the
Texas defensive
Watt, yes.
Yeah.
And he had to retire. They're not anywhere to that level, that degree or anything, but now it's just the point of he can be physically cleared, and then it's like building himself back up. So it's still, as we sit here right now at this moment, it's still March. Just April's coming real soon here, and we're starting to build up toward where it does get too late, or it gets late. It's still early yet, so I think it could be okay. But I think they're happy with where, medical-wise, in terms of getting cleared, that kind of thing. I don't think there's anything a doctor can say, no, he can't do,
You don't think they pick up his fifth-year option, though, do you? I really would be shocked.
Yeah, I'd be, yeah. I mean,
if he was a better player or 100% healthy, but 2 strikes against you, it's like,
yeah, it's really.
And Cook's not bad,
Exactly. If Cook and if we're sitting here talking, and I agree with you that first-round tackle is a possibility, right? I mean, not only if that happens, it even slams the door even more on the fifth-year option for Jones. But the fact that it's even in play, I think pretty much says
possibility.
It all. It says kind of where things are at.
And it looks like there'll be guys to pick from at 21 at tackle.
Yeah.
Some years you can't even go down that road. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris Adamski, co-host of the Steelers Blitz, covers the Steelers for the Trib, with us here on our mini Radio Row inside the Biltmore in Phoenix, Arizona. Chris,
we're doing a lot of heavy lifting on Radio Row this year.
We are.
I think Texans have not held up their side.
We are. We're about 1/3 of the radio representation down here.
Oh, I think we're about 90% of the radio representation.
We're the Aaron Rodgers in this room down here. We're the ones walking right into Canton one day, and everyone else is just on the coattails. Speaking of quarterbacks, buzz. It continues to be a lot of positive buzz from Mike McCarthy and company on Will Howard. Mike McCarthy saying that if he was in charge of the draft last year, Will Howard would not have lasted into the 6th round. Is this real? How much of a crack is he going to get? Do they really feel like, at least maybe by the time we get out of Latrobe, he can be the clear-cut number 2?
Yeah, I do believe that there's genuine curiosity, there's genuine admiration from afar from the coaching staff that came in, and Mike McCarthy. Remember, he did talk. He said that, and he talked about watching Will Howard. I mean, Will Howard, I always talk about, he was arguably, he wasn't, but the highest. He was the starting quarterback on the national championship team, so he got more airtime than any college football player in the country 2 years ago. So everybody kind of knew who he was and kind of followed him. So, and I think there was that admiration, seeing how well he played during that stretch. And whenever you're at that point during that college football playoff run by Will Howard last year, that's just right when Mike McCarthy had been let go or left or parted ways, I should say, with the Cowboys, everyone put it. So he was watching more football at that point than he had. So he saw like peak Will Howard tape with that. He's watching it live in terms of what he's doing. So I do believe that it's genuine for sure that the offensive staff and Mike in particular like Will Howard, but I also don't. There's something to say we like him better than a 6th-round pick to say he's good enough to be a franchise quarterback, right? I mean, so
big
I
leap
do
there,
think,
yeah.
But I guess the way Wes even talked about that frame of the question, yes, I do think there's certainly a possibility that there's a scenario where he could be the number 2 as soon as this year, but. There's also the possibility that you add the veteran, assuming it's Rodgers, and then they draft a quarterback in the mid-rounds or whatever, and you're not going to cut him. Then all of a sudden, I don't want to say he'll get cut, but all of a sudden it gets a little hairy, where he's at all in the depth chart, right?
That's what I was going to ask you next, is because I've said this 8 million times that I understand a case for and against a 3rd, 4th, 5th round quarterback, and some I like better than others, some they'll like better than others, and they have to be the right guy available, but. That probably is the writing on the wall for Rudolph if you take him. I am always in favor of taking a bite at the apple. You might get a cheap, home run Brock Purdy situation, Dak Prescott situation. He wants to work with young quarterbacks. He even said, I wish I had 5 in my room this year. Okay. Do you think they do it, and would you do it?
Yeah, I mean, Mark, there's at least one other person who's a bigger Mason Rudolph fan amongst the media than I am, but I've been always proponent of Mason Rudolph. But
and that's not a knock on Rudolph. It's just they're not going to keep 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
he's only a contract 1 more year.
And I totally agree with you. You laid out the reasons why taking a mid-round quarterback, because you go into the process, you think, okay, if they had fallen in love with Ty, or if they still do, I shouldn't use the past. If Ty Simpson, then that's something you don't pass up. You don't worry about.
And so that's a little different conversation.
Yeah, you don't worry about Will Howard. If you think you have a franchise guy in the 1st round, you're taking the pick. Everything else is secondary. You worry about that later. But if you start going into the mid-rounds there, all of a sudden, knowing that one way or another they'll have Rodgers, or if there's somebody else. But if there's Rodgers, and then there's
Howard.
And you have
those
Howard.
guys are going to make the team.
Yeah, and so then only 3 are going to make the team. So you have to look at it. That says something about somebody, right? If you take it in the mid rounds, you would think, or at least it spells trouble for someone, whether it's Rudolph or Howard, right? It's something because all 4 of them can't make the team. Now,
Rudolph might flip him into a 6th-round pick or something to a team that needs him or a team that gets injured,
And that's what I think is it's a little bit interesting is just watching Ben Roethlisberger over the final 8 or 9 years of his career at training camp. He did the thing where he did full practice, half practice, no practice.
Mm-hmm.
And at least the first year for Aaron Rodgers, maybe because it was a new team, maybe, I don't know, I was surprised. I assumed at age 41 last year we wouldn't see him very much at Latrobe.
He only missed 2 practices the whole year.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, he was
There's
out there all the time.
not that many reps to go around for all these young guys.
So part of me thinks like they'll roll the ball out there and do the old-fashioned like, okay, Will, show us you deserve to be part of the future. Okay, Mason, show us you deserve to be part of this team now.
And if you threw Nussmeier in there, that makes it all of a sudden there's not that many reps to go around.
Exactly.
It's
so
hard,
it's a little bit harder, if you're trying to get your starter prepared for the season. So that isn't ideal. But, I do, especially when you have 12 draft picks, Matt. Your idea would take a bite at the apple.
Yeah.
It's a lot more tenable. You almost, I don't want to say you have to.
Then you have to have a plan in place.
Yeah.
How do I get these guys developed?
But it's almost harder to make 12 picks and not take a quarterback, right, if you're in that situation. So it's almost like you'd almost be waiting because you take 12 picks at other positions, and that's another – it's hard for those 12 guys to make the team as it is. Now you throw an extra guy in there at a position that it's going to be hard to make the team.
That you need to spend time developing.
Exactly.
If it's a 4th-round quarterback, he's going to make the team.
Yes.
A couple more minutes here with our buddy Chris Adamski. Chris, I wanted to ask you just, maybe kind of a national thing or two as it relates to these league meetings here. What's your, I guess, on a scale of calm, concerned, worried, and panicked, okay? Where are you at on the NFL Referees Association and this stalemate with the league?
I'm generally calm to concerned, I guess. I don't know. It's going to get brought up now a lot, the Fail Mary and things like that. Maybe I've had selective memory where it wasn't so. I'm like, it'll work. There's labor dispute will work itself out. Even if they start the season, play a few weeks, then then the negotiation will come together. But I guess you're right that if a high-profile mistake is made of something, that's what ended the dispute last time. 13 years ago, 14 years ago now, when that happened, is a high-profile gaffe. So you hope that if you're the Steelers, you're not the one that happens to be. Maybe you'll benefit from it though. Like, this is actually the best thing.
This is great.
But and again, just like I said, there's lots of time. We're talking about Roger Jones. It's still March as we see it here today. There's not a game of consequence for 4.5 months or over 4 months or 5 months, I should say. And even exhibition games aren't for over 4 months. So I think there's still plenty of time. And these negotiations, there's a little rhetoric going out the last couple of days, but that's just part of the process.
Trying to win the narrative, right?
Exactly. So I think that if we're still here and it's August 1st instead of April 1st about the year, then maybe the level rises, but I think it'll be all right.
Last thing I have for you, and I think we all agree, Roman Wilson, Caleb Johnson haven't lived up to their draft expectations, obviously. But just listening to McCarthy, and it's something I've kind of inferred to this point, they're going to get somewhat of a new lease on life, don't you think?
Yeah, those two are probably the two of the that I don't say happy about the coaching change, but
that's the same words I used. At least it's new eyeballs.
Exactly.
Looking at you, right?
There's a clean slate aspect to any time there's a new coach that comes, and whatever the staff that drafted, the coaching staff, and I know they had Mike Tomlin influence, obviously, but they're still on hand here. There was things that the Steelers liked about those two players. They took them in the 3rd round. So you still have that kind of support behind you, and you have a new set of eyes. Now, just by so far what they've done, the Steelers, free agency-wise, and then there's a long way to go with the draft and everything, and that could flip on its head, but they haven't been as Michael Pittman's that's aggressive, and it was the first moments of free agency essentially. But aside from that, the rest has been kind of quiet at wide receiver. And when you go out and obviously more receivers play, more receivers are part of your game day roster, blah blah blah. But as we stand right now, Roman Wilson is probably still a starting as the depth chart sits.
They were to play tomorrow.
Exactly.
He's probably your number 3.
I don't expect that to be the case, but I think that is a little bit of an indication that he's maybe in higher state because it's going to be Caleb better whether he figures out the kickoff return thing, gets back in good graces with that, or whether he figures out another role on special teams. Because right now, the number 3 running back,
you got to play teams.
You have to play teams.
So if he doesn't do that, that's when it starts. Now, he's still only a second year. It's a lot more feasible to to move on from somebody in a third year when you're a third-round pick than a second year. It's pretty rare. I don't know. How often does a third-round pick cut before his second season starts?
Not very.
Yeah.
But he was also drafted for a different system.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a team out there that had a really high grade on him 1 year ago. And, I mean, you wouldn't get close to your investment. You might get a 6th-round pick back or return. But and I still think, again, if you have 12 picks, they might draft a running back still. I mean, even with the Homer edition.
Oh, you're definitely right.
You know, and then all of a sudden it gets real tight.
Yeah, you're right.
Room.
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. And just, again, it's a tea leaves. Hate to read too much into. We all hang on every word at this point. But both with the general manager and the coach, McCarthy and Omar so far, I feel like the answers are more enthusiastic about a Roman Wilson than they are about a Caleb Johnson.
Yeah, I got those vibes too. Plus, there's more roster spots to go around.
Yes.
You know, right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons why Roman seems a little in a better spot right now, yes.
And Roman does have to run down on kickoffs to save his job.
That's right. Hey, exactly.
We are in a better spot after having about 18 minutes with our friend Chris Adamski. Make sure you're checking out all his work in the trim this week. And, of course, listening to him and Tom here on the Steelers Blitz on the Steelers Audio Network. Buzz, thanks for the time. Go Mars Planets.
There you go. MARS, Mars.
Our third day at the league meetings. It is the drive on location about 2,000 miles away from our studios in Bridgeville, Pennsylvania, here in Phoenix, Arizona, where it's sunny, where it's beautiful, all the moving and shaking of the annual league meetings. And Matt, across the timeline here, via Tom Pelissero, of course, of the NFL Network, the NFL owners have approved 4 rule changes.
Okay.
So here's what they
I forget
are.
These things happen while we're here, too.
Yeah, right?
There's a reason everybody gets together.
I thought it was for the fancy dinner last night.
right.
Steak and the sushi and the smoked watermelon margarita.
And the Mexican floating around down here and all that good stuff, too.
I'm about to just abuse a burrito later for dinner. I can't wait.
I think that's a good move.
Tom Pelissero saying these 4 have passed. The first, to permit the kicking team to declare an onside kick at any time during the game, has passed.
Boom. I mean, I thought that was an easy one.
And 97% of them will still be in the fourth quarter.
Of course.
98% of them will still be in the fourth quarter.
But if someone wants to do it in the first, doesn't make it smart, but do it. Who cares, right?
If you're down 17 points at the end of the third quarter, go for it.
Desperate times, right.
Desperate times, desperate measures, all that good stuff. Yeah, that one.
I think they just screwed that up when they wrote it the first time.
Same.
Let's just correct it a year or two later.
And that's how a lot of these things work.
Exactly.
That's why you have competition committees, right? The second thing that has passed here in Arizona is eliminating the kicking team's incentive to intentionally kick the ball out of bounds when kicking off from the 50-yard line.
That was a total loophole.
That was one.
I just think they just didn't think through.
Yep, special teams
and how
coaches.
could you?
How could you? Yeah, it was the first time going through it. And so, we saw that. Danny Smith did that a couple times last year. We saw it, I remember, in Dublin was one of the times.
Yeah. Just drill it out of bounds
drill out of bounds.
No risk.
And you end up getting 5 yards. You give the offense 5 yards less of field position in the process too.
Yeah, kind of a helpless feeling if you're the return team.
Yes. So that one certainly a little bit of a loophole.
So how did they word it? You're not allowed to drill it out of bounds?
Yes. Now, so again, I
what
think
if you did it by accident?
They probably still have to decide the parameters on that. Maybe
I guess there's a big penalty.
Maybe it's a big penalty, or it's just if you kick it out of bounds, the ball goes here. It's just
okay. It's
set
at the 50
in
or
stone.
something.
Okay.
Okay.
It's at the 35 or it's at the 40.
That's probably what it is, right?
Or whatever. So some of the language of these rules will still have to be delegated. Written, But we know at least that.
But what was proposed passed.
Yes, to eliminate that incentive to intentionally kick the ball out of bounds has passed. So that's 2 of the 4, and a third one also directly. We talked about this on Sunday on our kind of opening show and our kind of primer and 411 to set the scene here for the week. A lot of this
What's
related.
411 mean?
411 is it's like your information, like 411.
Well, I know, but why did that come about?
That's a good question.
Why isn't it 287?
It's 411, relevant information or the truth. What does the slang term 411 mean?
Where did it derive from, I guess, is my question.
Originates from the United States telephone system, where 411 was the number dialed for directory assistance to get information.
So it's like 911. You know, like there's certain numbers you punch it.
It was Google basically before Google. You dial 411, you could get your information. So give me the 411 is all the news, all the gossip, all the lowdown.
Way before internet and whatnot.
On a particular subject.
Yeah, I understood what it meant. I just didn't know where it came from.
Hey, we're learning something new here every day. A lot of these, as we shared with you, are related to the kickoffs, and the third rule change that has passed is also related to kickoff, to modify the kickoff alignment requirements for the receiving team players in the setup zone.
So they're allowing that.
They're allowing that, so teams will have a little more wiggle room, a little more freedom to how they want to align on kickoffs now. It's not rigid and set and static. It has to be this way.
Again, we both leaned that way whenever we brought this stuff up, when we got here. And again, I mean, like if you're going to allow defense coordinators, offense coordinators, play designers on those sides of the ball to be more creative with their formations and schemes, why not let the special team coaches do it too?
It makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely makes a ton of sense. So those three, I think we thought that there was a really good chance that those three would pass, all related to –
I bet there wasn't much resistance on those.
All related to the kickoff, all of those proposed by the competition committee, and according to Tom Pelissero.
You need to remember the whole dynamic kickoff still pretty new.
We're only going into year 3 here.
Yeah.
So the dynamic kickoff is still on its rookie deal.
It's still on its rookie deal, right.
3.
Looks like they'll pick up its 5th-year option now. Right.
I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't think they'll have to think about that one too much. And then finally, Matt, the fourth and final rule change that has passed, according to Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network, is that, for 1 year only, the NFL will allow the officiating department to correct clear and obvious misses made by on-field officials that impact the game in the event that there is a work stoppage involving the game officials represented by the NFL Referees Association.
Yeah, and at a minimum, this ref thing is not going to go away soon. I'm sure we'll be talking about this for weeks, maybe months, hopefully not months and months and months. My takeaway, and this really reaffirms it, is at a the owners in the league are putting pressure on the refs.
Yes,
and that's
that might be all that it is.
Right?
That's
Maybe it's all it is.
101, baby.
Right. But that's at least that much.
Yes.
I mean, they're pushing the hammer down a little bit.
Oh, and also via Pelissero, NFL owners also just approved an amended rule change that not only will allow league personnel to consult with on-field officials when considering disqualifications. Remember we talked about this?
Yeah, like the spitting incidents and things like that.
Spitting and punching and stamping. So not only to review those type of things, but also to throw a flag on the play as well, too. So not only
that did get approved.
Yes.
Okay.
So not only could someone from the league office or from the booth, buzz down and say, "Hey, Jamar Chase just spit on Jalen Ramsey.
Let's look at that.
You got to eject him out." You could also say you could throw a 15-yard personal foul on that, even if the referees miss it all.
Good. Again, I think I brought this up 2 days ago that should happen. I don't want people getting away with disgusting acts and things like that.
Yeah, I agree.
But how far do we take it? Is it like
a shove?
Right. Oh, he might have hit him in the face mask after the penalty.
Is a slight little palm to the face, or does it have to be a groin punch? Does it have to be a stomp on the ankle? Does it have to be putting your hand around somebody's throat? That does leave some interpretation up to the officials.
I'm not super worried about it, but I don't want someone to take it too far. Like, we're going to review that. Come on,
That's where I'm with you. I want technology to be part of the game, but I don't want it to take over the game.
Yes.
I think that's the balance.
And like in the Chase situation, it would have absolutely changed the game. Right.
I said this to you a few days ago. I think there's not a lot that sports fans across the board all agree upon, but I don't care if it's football, baseball, basketball, hockey. I think everybody wants technology to be a part of the game.
Yeah.
They just don't want it to take over and clunk up the flow of the game at the same time. There's a balance there that we're all looking to strike.
Yes.
Matt, couple more T's to cross and I's to dot before we put a bow here on hour number 2. The Super Bowl is officially returning to Las Vegas in 2029.
Okay.
Oh boy, that'll be a fun scene.
I think many people would be wanting to go.
I think that'll be a fun scene there in Las Vegas. Also, don't tell anybody I told you this. All right, but I was listening to some little birdies chirp last night at the dinner.
Yeah.
It sounds like Nashville in 2030. which, oh boy.
That wouldn't be a bad spot either.
It would not be a bad spot, but my goodness, downtown Nashville is like smaller than downtown Pittsburgh, and
wow,
that would be a lot of fun, but a lot of chaos. But
when the Steelers are there back-to-back, you and I have a good time in Vegas and Nashville.
That's exactly. We sure will. Listen, when we're on the NFL's dime and travel schedule, it won't be a problem. We'll be doing fantastic. Also announced by the Minnesota Vikings, they are picking up the 5th-year option on wide receiver Jordan Addison.
I thought that was semi-debatable. You know, like Naylor was up for free agency. I thought they might try to just keep him and let Addison go. Addison's a good player. He's a really good number 2, but he's very small, and I think he's a slightly overrated player that benefits so much from Jefferson being on the other side, and he keeps getting in trouble. I mean, he just keeps getting in trouble over and over and over. Now, 5th-year option for a guy like him, he's not going to a Pro Bowl. Isn't really real disability.
It's not breaking the bank.
Yeah. And I do think the Vikings are in it to win it this year with Kyler. I mean, I don't think they're taking a step back and trying to rebuild or anything. But I didn't know if this was a slam dunk.
Yeah, I didn't either.
He's always in trouble.
That's the kicker.
Yeah.
He's a good number 2, and you used a first-round pick on him a few years ago. But
the 5th-year option is also different than I'm going to give you a huge contract with a $25 million signing bonus.
And as you mentioned, especially if he was a later first-round pick.
Later first.
If he hasn't hit a lot of those incentives.
I don't think he's hit a lot of the kickers,
The number probably isn't crazy. It's probably a fair number to pay a number 2 wide receiver.
Yeah.
And maybe you end up if he walks the line like Johnny Cash, maybe you end up extending him. If not, hey,
if he leaves at the end of the year, you probably get a comp pick out of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point too. Let's see here, Matt. Dolphins GM John Eric Sullivan shut down any potential conversation regarding trade rumors for Devon Achane earlier this morning.
Saying, I keep hearing that, but I don't know if I believe it.
Saying that it's a priority for them to extend him, and there's zero effort to move him.
Okay. I mean, originally when he said that a couple weeks ago, right after the Waddle trade, I just thought, man, no one's offered enough yet. His style, I mean, running backs just don't last in this league, especially tiny ones. By the time you're good, is that a good investment?
I don't know. I don't think.
I mean, he certainly helps with evaluating Willis, which is super important.
That
part is important,
yes,
right? I mean, swing passes to him, and keep you sort of competitive.
You got to have somebody that can do something for you on that offense, right?
Yeah, and they'll probably draft 2 good pass catchers, or young pass catchers, pretty high, but still, I would think that's a piece you want to move.
And one of the last things that I think we need to discuss here, Matt, because it's not a huge story now, but I think in the coming years it will be, and that is that the NFL announced a partnership with Tomorrow Sports, the company behind, that Total Golf League that we've seen on ESPN sometimes. It's all the pro golfers that are in the indoor facility.
Yeah,
play virtual golf.
And the greens all change.
Rory McIlroy does it. Tiger Woods does it. Like, they've got big names.
We were in Indianapolis was the first time I ever saw it. Right.
It's the same company that does that. They are developing a professional flag football league for both men and women that will be backed by all 32 NFL teams. So the NFL partnering with Tomorrow Sports for a pro flag football league. Matt, the reason why I think right now this doesn't grab a bunch of headlines or move the needle, but it will eventually, is because, remember, a little over 2 years from now, summer of 2028, the Summer Olympics are in Los Angeles, here in the United States, and flag football is going to be for the first time an Olympic sport.
Yeah, I knew that.
So this, I think, is the ramp up to that of
get people used to it.
Get people used to it, get people interested in it, get NFL players involved to see exactly what that looks like, because they are vastly different games that are governed differently and played differently. But that I just think is important. I think that's something that, again, today isn't going to grab a bunch of headlines. But I think this is the start of potentially something that could be substantial in a couple years.
Yeah, and there was a get-together here where Larry was involved. Larry Fitzgerald was involved.
That's right. We ran into your old buddy. That's one of the things and all the fun of yesterday. We forgot
all
to bring
about
up,
that, right?
That
was yesterday, right?
It was
about 2 days
yesterday.
ago. Everything kind of blending together. But, yeah, he was here promoting that with some other people, and I guess it went well. I didn't sit in there, but I did run into Larry before.
I thought you would maybe talk. I'd heard from you for a long time how good buddies you are with Larry Fitzgerald and all this.
I don't see him or talk to him on it.
But still, you'd be like, him and my wife used to get along, and we used to watch film together, and I'm like, all right, let's see how well Larry remembers
I
Matt.
didn't know how well I'd be received.
We're walking down the hallway, and we're maybe 20 yards away from him, and Larry sees Matt, and he starts smiling and waving right away. All right, so he wasn't lying. He wasn't exaggerating.
No,
they are buddies.
Yeah.
He was happy to see you, and I think everybody on Twitter and social media got a kick out of how you're the same height as Larry Fitzgerald. Everyone was like, wow, how tall is Matt?
That was kind of odd because the picture, you took the pictures, and I look a lot taller than him, or noticeably taller than him, and I'm not. And so, like a nerd, I looked up Larry Fitzgerald combine measurements.
Yep.
And he was 6'0", which is
6'2" and 7'8", so just a shade under 6'3".
Which is exactly what I am. And I'm like, there's no way. I mean, people are like, "Man, it looks like he's 6'5". I didn't realize when a giant. I'm not 6'5". You know, it's just a weird picture, I guess, or
about
whatever.
6'3",
yeah,
6'3" in shoes.
Yeah. I think my hair was standing up from wearing a headset all day too. Right.
Before we go, you were always looking tip top there, Matt Williamson.
Oh, but also flag. I want to mention. I love that women get to be involved in a great sport.
It's awesome.
I mean, I don't know if one day they'll wear helmets and pads and play this version of football or not, but it's great that they, a whole new realm of young women and people are going to be exposed to this in a professional manner.
It's great. Last thing before we get to break and to our buddy Alan Saunders of Steelers Now to kick off our bonus third hour. I've been keeping an eye on this all day, Matt, because remember, Jermod McCoy, cornerback out of Tennessee.
Oh, that's today,
one of the more intriguing prospects. Pro day in Knoxville in Tennessee just within the past hour. He just ran a 4.3840.
Oh, good for him.
38-inch vertical jump.
Okay.
And a 10.7 broad jump about a half an hour ago at his pro day.
That's more than just checking the boxes of you're healthy.
First-round pick?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he probably always was going to be a first-rounder, but maybe now in the top 10, top 15.
Yeah, I originally thought maybe he goes to a bad team, like the Jets that can just wait on him and be the eventual Sauce replacement at like 17 or whatever that is. Now, does he challenge Delane to be cornerback one?
He just might.
I mean, I think it's not crazy.
He just might. Good day for Jermod McCoy for sure. It's been a good day for us so far. Bonus hour, final hour here of the drive on location inside the Biltmore in Phoenix, Arizona for the 2026 NFL League Owners Meetings. And joining us now to kick off our final hour, he's been a guest a few times here in the last few months on the drive. It's our buddy Alan Saunders, of course, of Steelers Now. Alan, this is my first owners meeting. I have been pleasantly surprised. This is a fabulous event. How have things been on your end?
It's wonderful every year. I think this is the best location. I love it here.
You like it better in Florida?
Yeah, I do. It doesn't rain here.
That's a good point.
It is hot. It got off the plane and it's just like, who turned the furnace on? Like, gee, this is at night and everything.
Florida's rough that way too.
Still hot, but I think this is a great setup here, and they take great care of us. And yeah, really nothing to complain about this week.
Have a good time last night?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard not to.
So let's get right into it with you here, Alan. And I know we kind of had some news in the last half an hour or so, but the NFL owners approving a rule change allowing the league to step in and assist on potential disqualifications, whether for flagrant football acts or non-football acts, and initiate a flag if one wasn't thrown. Was the DK Metcalf incident in Detroit last year a real catalyst of this conversation?
I think it was. It certainly is the example case for how the NFL would like this to play out differently. And honestly, I think, when we saw the suspension handed out last year as 2 games and then DK went to the appeal, I thought, they'll probably knock it down to 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, maybe if he had been ejected at halftime of that game instead of playing the second half, that might have been something that happened. So I think in some ways, I don't love the idea of the flag from the press box, right?
Yeah.
From
Could get clunky.
New York throws the flag on the play. I think that's a little bit fraught, but I think it will end up helping resolve it's such a weird and unique situation. I just hope they don't overuse it. Like, how many times
we said the same thing,
has a situation like that occurred where you're sitting there watching something happen, like, I really probably should be thrown out for that, and the officials didn't see it. Like, it doesn't happen very often.
Were there any shocks of the things that got voted I mean, I thought all the kickoff stuff was pretty much cut and dry, easy decisions.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. I felt like this kickoff, they were very conservative with the rollout of the new kickoff, where I think we're going to see, as they continue to tweak this, we're seeing more returns. Certainly.
That's what they want, yeah.
We're seeing more returns. It's a play that exists again, but we're not seeing anywhere near the explosive plays that we saw at the height of the kick return in the early 2000s. I think I wrote there were a handful of touchdowns last year. I think that maybe 6. I think there were in 2007 there were 2 guys that had 3.
Wow.
The whole league had 6.
Wow, yeah.
So it's like they got to find
Dante Hall, Devin Hester.
They got to find some ways to give the return team a chance to make a big play, and so giving them more flexibility in where they line the guys up, I think, is what they're going for. The rest of it just seems very cut and dry,
pretty obvious
stuff.
Yeah. So, like an underrated need, I think that I've been talking about for months and even before this, Steelers really could use return guys.
Both punt and kick.
Yeah, they don't really have anybody.
Punt. I mean, Jaylen Warren, I assume, will continue to be one of the 2 guys back there on kickoff return, probably. But Kenny Gainwell was there. I think. And Mike McCarthy was talking yesterday about he wants wide receivers that can do more than one thing. And he very specifically said, that could mean playing in the slot or playing outside. It could also mean go play on special teams.
Yeah,
and
returner, gunner,
they
whatever.
don't
right?
have a lot of bodies in the wide receiver room. So I think it makes sense if you're looking at mid-round picks, say, go get another wide receiver who can return some kicks.
Well, if you're kind of trying to read the tea leaves of the draft here in, 23 days, it kicks off in Pittsburgh. Mike McCarthy spent some time this morning talking about the value of position flexibility, particularly how critical it is for an offensive line. There are a lot of those, first-round type prospects in this draft, and even some into the second round, that kind of profile as they could play guard or tackle in the league. Does that put an antenna up? Does that feel like a real option for the Steelers to go back to the offensive line at 21, even when they've invested a lot of draft capital there recently?
I don't know that I see the player that I think is a fit that's going to be there at 21. I mean, Vega Ioane, I love as a player, but
he's a guard.
I would be surprised if he even gets to 18, and he's a guard, and a really good one. In terms of, some of the other guys, I just don't know. I think versatility is great. I think also versatility is something we say about people that we're not sure if they have a home. And don't get those things confused. Is Caden Proctor a tackle who might have to move to guard, or is he just not a very good tackle? I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's always this question.
And I don't want to draft a guy in the first round that might not be a very good tackle. And I don't have any idea if he's going to move to guard. I think we've seen a trend in recent years of some of these guys that know that question is coming when they get to the NFL. They move to guard on their own in college. And I think that's probably the better way to go for it. It's like I said, versatility is great. It is very rare, though, that you have guys that are truly good at multiple positions. And most of the time, you're either talking about guys who are just okay at everything or guys that really just don't have a fit.
So I think we can all agree that they're going to draft a receiver high and maybe even 2 of them, in this draft with all the picks they have. I really think there's about a 0% chance Tate from Ohio State is there. I think everyone else has a chance to make 21. Do you have a second favorite? Do you have a pecking order of the receivers that you like? Have you ranked them in any way?
I actually think I like Tyson better than Tate.
Do you?
On tape. It's just the injuries that is a big factor.
Thing to comment on.
You can't really, it's hard to factor what teams are going to, especially with his, because it's not like he has something that's ongoing. It's just that he's been hurt all the time. It's durability. And I don't know how to weight that. I love his tape. I think to me he's clearly the second guy that I would want. But, I don't think it's crazy that one of those top guys is there for the Steelers at 21. I think it's very likely, given that they have 12 picks, that if one of those guys even makes it to a short trade-up range, 3-4 picks up, that they'll go get him, because why not with 12? You're not going to have 12 rookies make the team.
No.
Do you feel strongly about Boston or Concepcion or Lemon or any of those others?
I think Boston, for me, I love him as a player. feels like the worst fit for the Steelers. I mean,
just a little too redundant.
He is exactly. Well, I mean, Mike's just talking about wanting guys who can do multiple things. I don't think he's that. And the one thing he does, they already have guys that can do that. I just think he's
the traditional outside the numbers.
I mean, He's probably the worst fit. I think he's a really good player, and decent chance that he's BPA when pick 21 comes around. I think I would rather have. If I was like making a big board sort of for any team, I'd put him ahead of Concepcion and Cooper, but I think they're better fits for what the Steelers need right now.
Okay.
Alan Saunders of Steelers Now with us here on our little mini radio row at the league meetings inside the Biltmore. Alan, sticking with that draft conversation, you mentioned those 12 picks. Is there a sweet spot for the Steelers to move up? Like, would you be interested in maybe nabbing an additional second-round pick? Is there any thought in your mind even from potentially moving down to 21 if there's not the BPA fit that you love as well?
Yeah, I think the best part of this draft for me is from about pick 15 to 60. I really like those guys. So whether it's moving up a little bit in the first round, moving up in the second round. I love the players in the 40 range if they can get into there, or moving up to get another second-round pick. I think all of those should be on the table. Those feel like the best ways to use those additional resources. I'm sure they would also be interested in trading some of them for 27 capital. Usually you profit on that exchange by waiting a year. But I think in this situation, that's not going to be the case. Talking to some
you're
people
dumping a late
league,
third, you're not going to get an early second next year.
I think every team would like to move some draft capital from 26 to 27, and you got to have somebody willing to come the other way to make it happen.
Wes, I don't think we've talked about this at all, but I think it's more likely they move from 53 or wherever they pick in the second up to 40 than they move from 21 to 17. It'd be a lot less expensive. You might get your cake and eat it too with the receiver lineman situation with a pick at 21 and 40, and maybe it only costs you a fourth or a late third, or someone throws in a fifth next year or whatever. I just think you could end up with two guys with similar grades.
Yeah, I think that's and the Steelers have, I would say, been pretty good under Omar Khan at finding those guys that are falling down the board and getting themselves in position to meet them where they are. And I think that that to me is like his hidden skill as a general manager.
I think he's really good at it.
Is that he's very good at understanding how the rest of the league is going to value players and find the value picks. And so yeah, absolutely. They may not even have to get very far up from that 53 pick to get a guy that we're talking about as a borderline first-round player.
I could absolutely see that happening, and I've been thinking about it more and more just the last 48 hours.
All right, Alan, we did it. We made it over 10 minutes into this segment without asking you about Aaron Rodgers, but now we have to ask you about Aaron Rodgers. Any change in what Mike McCarthy had to say this morning in your mind? Do you have any timeline on this, or is this just one of those we got to wait and see and we won't know until we know?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Steelers are pretty clearly planning on him being their quarterback. I don't think they're really – I mean, I'm sure they're doing some due diligence, but I don't think they're in any hurry on those other ideas. I don't think there's anybody else out there that's – worth putting a hard deadline on for. And really, I mean, I know that Art said earlier this week that he expects to know by the draft. It's not like they're going to change their draft plans whether they've already signed Aaron Rodgers or
not. They're not going to like Ty Simpson any more or less.
They're not going up to get Mendoza.
No one other than Mendoza, and honestly, maybe not even Mendoza in this draft class should be playing this year, in my opinion. So it's a completely separate conversation. Really, until you start missing OTA sessions, nothing really matters. So, I mean, to me, that's the first time that it becomes an issue.
Yeah, and I think I've asked every one of our guests for the last week or so this exact same question, because I always preface it the same way. I can make a really strong case yes, or I can make a really strong case no. The third to fifth round quarterback pile, the Becks, the Nussmeyers, I mean, Uhler, whoever you like. Should you even bother, or are you a yay or nay on that?
Well, I think there are about maybe 3 guys that I think are down there that have traits that are worth taking a flyer on.
I keep going back to Cole Payton.
I think if you don't have upside, it's not worth just drafting a guy who's probably a backup. I would not do that.
Yes, I agree.
I think there are a couple guys.
That's my problem with Beck.
Yeah, I just don't think Beck has the physical tools. I think Uhler does. I would take him, but maybe not. Like, he's mostly mocked in like the third round.
Mm-hmm.
Feels a little rich for me, but I think he's at least like a gamble worth taking. Peyton is interesting. I'm not sure he's actually very – like, I didn't love him at the Senior Bowl. I thought he was just okay.
He doesn't throw the football great.
No. And I think Taylon Green is interesting because just he's such a good athlete that, you know, you can run the tush-push with him and you can do some Taysom Hill stuff with him. And maybe it never works out. But if you're talking about a 4th or 5th round pick and that's all he becomes, like, that's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But I just, like, I don't think they necessarily need – like a body.
No,
you know,
no. I mean, that probably means that Rudolph gets let go if you do that, or in some
well,
capacity.
I mean, and, like, how many of those guys are going to be better than Mason Rudolph? Like,
probably
half,
none
maybe.
immediately.
Yeah, none immediately, and maybe half ever. Like, so, to me, that's not a. I mean, hearing Mike talk, I think they're going to try to draft one, but
it seems that way.
I don't see that there's like this pressing
right.
You know, I think my mock drafts, I've kind of gone back and forth where some of them I'll have one and then some of them I don't.
I am really exactly on the fence. You know, like, you might get Dak Prescott or Purdy. I mean, you might.
Yeah.
You know, but you've no way of knowing but trying. But I can't say I'm doing cartwheels over the idea either. And that's taken away from reps that Rudolph's going to get or Howard's going to get.
Yeah, but not if they're just coming at the expense of Rudolph because, you know, he's probably going to get reps too. I don't know. I think the Howard thing is interesting. Mike very, strongly stating his case today for why he thinks Will Howard has the traits to be a future starting quarterback. But also,
you believe that?
I mean, I do.
It seems a little over the top to me.
Yeah, I believe it because he's given us some background at least for why he thinks that now. Said yesterday, he gave this long sort of diatribe about playing in cold weather, and there's certain things that he wants, and he wants size, and he wants arm length and hand size. Oh, well, hand size I think is pretty average, but he's a tall guy. He's a big guy, long arms,
he's a physical
tough,
presence
strong,
at least.
right?
Yeah.
Like he played in the cold in college, and so you can kind of see him checking those boxes in the way that Mike described. So I kind of buy it, but I think they're also like. It's two different. It's one thing to say he has starting quarterback traits. Okay, fine. Like it's also like a 2% chance. Maybe you want to find out about that 2% chance. Maybe you're intrigued by it, but I think they're also realistic enough that, hey, take another shot if you can. Like it's not like this is some kind of sure thing.
That's an interesting conversation.
Alan, last one I've got for you is Mike McCarthy kind of saying the right things and in positive conversation about Caleb Johnson and Roman Wilson. Which of those two do you think has the better shot to carve out a role under this new regime?
Ooh, that's a tough way to phrase that. I'm not overly bullish on either of their chances as we sit here right now. Caleb just feels very boxed out of reps. Like I don't know where the opportunity comes. He pretty much needs somebody to get hurt at this point. And I think
there's at least more roster spots at the receiver position.
And I think he will run the ball very, very well when he finally gets an opportunity to do so. I have never had a doubt about Caleb Johnson's ability as a ball carrier. Pass protection, route running, his hands, I have questions. Obviously, special teams didn't go great last year. But I think if they needed him, if somebody gets hurt and they need him to go have 5 to 10 carries a game, I think he could be very good in that role. Roman Wilson, I don't think is a very good fit for this offense. He doesn't really do those multiple things that Mike McCarthy was talking about. I think he would best be pigeonholed as a slot receiver somewhere. And I think his traits that he brought to the table, the things you saw at Michigan that made him the draft pick that he became, is toughness, physicality, run blocking, ability, willingness to go over the middle. But he is not this sort of precise route runner technician that you associate with a West Coast offense slot receiver. So I think this scheme is going to be a worse fit for him. But I do think there is always a sort of, and Mike had a great quote about it. He said it's the Catholic operation.
Yep.
Say 3 Hail Marys and the priest absolves you. And
your slate is clean.
Yeah, you get a clean slate. It's like, I think that's true, but like I don't know where the role comes from for either of those guys. Really, I think Roman has a bigger opportunity. Obviously, there's just much less depth at wide receiver.
I have one last thing for you. Like, I'm going to assume, especially with the number of picks they have, they're going to draft at least one defensive back of some shape, size, or whatever. Free safety, strong safety, nickel, big corner, outside guy, small nickel, big nickel, whatever. What style do you think they're looking for first and foremost to add to the secondary?
I really don't know. I mean, I think a
lot of this is what do you do with Ramsey?
I think the signing of Jamel Dean tells me that they want to play man-to-man. They want to have the ability to play man-to-man.
With size.
And I think they probably don't have anyone, certainly don't have anyone long-term, and I don't even know if they have anyone in short-term, that you can say, okay, go in the slot and cover Zay Flowers man-to-man. To me, that's the thing they're lacking. I also think it's a really good slot corner draft.
Yeah.
I really like the day 2 guys that are slot corners. And so to me, that feels like the biggest thing that they don't have that will be.
And then you think Ramsey becomes more safety first?
Well, I just think for this year, it could be a small role. It could just be, hey, you're the nickel when we're playing Baltimore because it's Zay Flowers. And then when you go play –
Patrick Graham is very week to week.
And when you go play somebody else who plays all 12 personnel and it's a 6'5" tight end in there, okay, then maybe it needs to be – forget Ramsey. Maybe it needs to be Deshaun Elliott, whatever, But
Brisker, right, yeah.
It could be a small part at first, and then you see how things go. And then, hey, if it's a young guy who looks like he's deserving more playing time, then sure, you can let Brisker walk away and you could move Ramsey to safety full time. But I think that's an area where that's the one thing in the secondary I really don't think they have where you feel really good about, okay, like man-to-man in this situation. They kind of have all the other boxes checked.
Great stuff with our buddy Alan Saunders. Make sure you're checking out all his coverage this week and always SteelersNow.com. Thanks for taking the time, dude. Appreciate it.
Thanks, fellas.
Don't melt too much out there on us now, all right?
I'll try.
You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the Black and Gold. Steelers Nation Radio.